The goal of this stream today is to give you the information you need right now to find your first bug. Or if you want to grow, like if you're looking to grow your signal reputation, you want to find or get more invites to private programs. That's my goal. This is, we're going to be looking at the Mars VDP. In fact, I'll go ahead and move this over here from my framework for a second. We're going to be looking at the Mars VDP today. And a VDP, for anybody that doesn't know, is a vulnerability disclosure program here. For the most part, vulnerability disclosure programs do not pay bounties. They, it's just kind of opening up, say if you find something, everything else is the same for the most part, but you're not going to get a bounty for it. So what that means is the more experienced hunters and the people that are doing this full time for a living, they're not going to spend a ton of time on a program like this. And I will say also, a lot of these programs tend to have a very wide scope. Mars certainly does as well. So these are perfect for getting your first bug. So I've done, in fact, if you remember and you've seen my most recent AI members only video, then you'll see that I've been looking through all the different VDPs. I've been pulling the data down and working with an LLM to find the best targets based on all types of different metrics, right? And Mars was right up at the top of that list. First of all, we see really great response efficiency. Up here, you can see 121 reports in the last 90 days. So they're constantly getting reports. They're turning them out. Look at the response times, right? A day, a day and a half average time to triage is always fantastic, right? If I submit a bug, I don't want to wait, especially on a VDP where I'm trying to move forward. I'm trying to get signal reputation in private programs. I don't want to wait 2 months to hear back from me. That's like, if you're not going to pay me, then at least be responsive and help me get to where I need to go. So that's what these VDPs are. You can see it's got safe harbor, which I'm always looking for. Safe harbor just means they are, as long as you're not obviously trying to do something malicious, you're going to be protected legally. I always want to do that as well. So we're going to look at this. We're going to look at Mars, a couple different things. And specifically, if we come over here to the scope, and again, they have a ton. We got 117 different scope targets. I always love to see multiple different pages there. And a lot of them are these wild cards that we can use my framework to go test and find everything in there. And they've got some URLs and stuff too. So we're going to do two different things today. We're going to start by looking at essentially doing recon and trying to find target URLs from a specific wildcard scope target. And I'm going to show why in a minute, but it's one that I think is going to be very opportunistic if you're looking to find your first bug or your first couple, looking to kind of get that quick boost of signal and reputation. After that, we are going to look into this domain specifically, because this domain allows you to register for your own accounts. You can register for multiple accounts. It has a very large authenticated attack surface. And so what we're going to do is we're going to dig into that. We'll get logged in and be able to go through the whole site. And we're going to evaluate the technology stack. We're going to ask ourselves a bunch of questions. We're going to find the answer to those. We're going to evaluate the security controls. We're going to find several different what's called attack vectors, and we're going to do what's called threat modeling. I'm going to be talking a lot more about threat modeling in my videos coming up, because a lot of people ask me, I finished my recon, I've maybe run some scans and everything. It's like, what do I do next? How do I get to the point where I'm actually finding these vulnerabilities or actually testing for the vulnerabilities? And that missing piece there is threat modeling. And threat modeling, you're essentially, once you understand the application, you're going to take a step back and you're going to start to, and it's a specific methodology that you're going to use to identify real attacks that could affect that based on what's actually there, what mechanisms are there, how they're configured, etc. So it's really just like brainstorming what an attacker could do, or if you were an attacker, what you would do. And then from there, you end up with a list of potential attacks on a list of on a list of attack vectors, and then you can go through and you can individually test those in a manual. So I think that's kind of a missing piece for a lot of people there. So man, yeah, it looks like the YouTube is not working right. I'll have to test that, but oh well, anyway. So that's the plan for today. Again, I've got my chat up there. If anybody has any questions at all, and be keeping an eye on it, you let me know. More than happy to answer that for you. Otherwise, we will just start going through it. So I said to start with, we're going to look at a wildcard target. And I've already, oh, by the way, I do have the data for this, for my thing. We're going to be looking at this domain here. So If you want, and here I can just come over, go to GitHub real quick to show you. And of course I'm not logged in, that's fine. So you can go to my GitHub here. You don't need the 2 slashes, that was a typo. GitHub.com/R-S0N. Somebody had taken it without the dash. Anytime you see it with a dash, it means somebody else has taken it. You've got my bug bounty hunting framework right here. That is the tool that we're going to be using. It's 100% free, so please help yourself if you want to go ahead and get that running. And then if you want to follow along and actually do some testing with me, all the data that I'm using, aside from what we're going to manually add here within the URL, has already been added in this Mars directory here, right? So for anybody that doesn't know, in my framework, all you have to do, you can add a scope target here, and actually you need to, when there's nothing else listed in here, but you don't already have data, you have the option to go ahead and import it, and then you can go to a URL and you can pipe it in there. So let me know if you have any issues there. But yeah, all this data that we're going to be looking at, including the almost 700 live web servers under this target, is available for you again right here under this Mars directory there. So yeah, you say, can I please leave the stream in the VOD? Yeah, I mean, I think it does that automatically. I think it's always been there as well, but 100%. So this is being recorded on mine as well. I'm going to take it off. It'll be on YouTube. It'll be a public video that anybody can watch. Yeah, I know that people probably have other things they can do today as well, so I want to make sure it's available for everyone. And then SentinelSec, you asked, do I use my framework from a VPS, virtual private server? No, it is. My framework is designed to be run as a desktop application. In fact, I'm probably later going to be wrapping it up in Electron, so it'll actually run as a desktop application. There is a good friend of mine who is in our Discord server. By the way, link to the Discord server will be in here as well. If you're watching it, I can drop it in the chat right now if anybody doesn't have it. Guy named Decrypt has been building his own framework. Him and I have been working together for a while, and his is designed to be a cloud-based framework that would run on a VPS. So, oh, Eamon, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I would say right back to everybody here. It's been supporting me. It's been an absolute blessing. You know, I was for anybody that doesn't know, I have decided to, I left my full-time job, and as opposed to finding another full-time job, I've decided to give it a shot of doing YouTube and live streams and bug bounty hunting and running my own company and doing all that full time. That's a big part of, everything that I've been doing here. So, and the response and the support that I've gotten from the community and everything's been absolutely incredible. So thank you all so much. I'd say y'all are just as much a blessing to me as hopefully I am for you. So, okay. So coming back here to the scope. So I want to show you, so again, we're going to be looking at this. I've been calling it Cloud FM. I don't know how you're actually supposed to say that, but I think that's fine. We're going to be looking at the Cloud FM subdomain here first. And I've already completed my recon. Happy to talk through everything that was done, but it was all done with my framework there. So why did I choose this domain? So I came here to the page first, and I wanted to come over to the view changes. For anybody that's not familiar with this, you can see very easily anytime a company or a bug bounty program really makes a change to their scope, and you can see it's in unified whatever diff format. So it's like a PR. So if it's red, it means that was taken away, and if it's green, it means it was added. So we can see here that on December 23rd, this domain here was no longer part of the scope. We cannot do any more testing up there, so that's not going to help us. Come back over here, and then on December 23rd as well, they took off that one. However, if we go back to October 8th, so I guess it was 2 months, I said 1 month before, but on October 8th, they added this wildcard. So you can see here, it's in scope, it's critical severity, right? We've got anything in there. So I always take note of this. I want to try to find something that other people haven't been testing on, right? So here we have a VDP, a vulnerability disclosure program. So we know there's not going to be as much competition as there typically would be with, a public bug bounty program. Then you have such a wide scope. We have, hundreds of different wildcards that people can test on. Then you add on to that we have this wildcard that when you go through and do your recon, you find that there are almost 700 different live web servers. So since October 8th, there have been 700 live web servers that have been in here. No way all of that's been tested. Zero chance whatsoever. So it's, I mean, there's bugs in these URLs, 100%. There's just no, it's not possible. You can't load balance everything that much. So that is the reason that I picked this. I definitely recommend that. Once you pick a program, if you don't know which wildcard to choose or why, I want to come in, I want to find the one that was added most recently. And if it's just a couple months and it's got, you know, a big scope like this, you know, we're going to have a lot of opportunity here. So that's what I did. I came over and added it to my bug bounty hunting framework here as a wildcard target. I didn't bother adding a company or anything there because we just wanted to focus on this. And the goal of the wildcard workflow here is to go through and find all these live servers, and then determine which one of those we want to move over to a URL target that we can test on there. So it's like a direct URL that we're testing, which is the second part that we're going to do here. So, you know, for anybody that's not familiar, this is very much based on Jason Haddock's Recon methodology version 4, right? We go through and do AMAS. We've got a bunch of different results here. You can see all the different raw results. We go through and do subdomain scraping, several different tools, consolidate, and then find our live web servers. Then we do some brute forcing. We got a standard word list and a custom word list. CEWL will go in and build out a dynamic word list based on all the words that are on the pages. So it'll crawl through a bunch of different ones, build an individual word list, and then we'll test those for subdomains. And again, you can see we found 5 individual ones there that we didn't find with our other ones. Consolidate and do live web servers again. Then we're going to use 2 tools to actually go crawl it. We want to crawl for any links that are in the DOM itself, as well as any of the JavaScript files that are part of it. We do one more round here of our consolidation, finding live web servers, and then we have our point to actually go through and we take screenshots, we gather a ton of metadata, and ultimately we end up with this ROI report, which we can look at a little bit there. So, but now we have 700 different live web servers that are potential targets for bug bounty hunting, and we know there's bugs out there. We know that the vast majorities probably haven't been tested, or at least not thoroughly, because again, there's just so many different things to go through. So now we have our decision point. That's why it's written right there. We have our decision point where we need to find out which one of these URLs are worth our time to actually go in and start figuring out how it works, scanning, testing, trying to find any actual bugs. So let's do that. And the first thing I want to do, I'm going to bring, well, let's just grab the thing here. My burp suite over here too. The user interface is not working with me. We're just going to add this to the scope so that we don't have a lot of additional noise. This will make sure that we're only looking at our Cloud FM1s right there. You can see I clicked on one just to test it. And I have burp or Foxy Proxy going through burp up here. So as we go through and we open each one of these and start testing them out, we're going to be able to see, or everything will go through burp suite, and later we'll be able to see what those requests are, what they had in it. We'll be able to start working off of it there. So, okay, so moving down, again, right here in our decision points where we're going to have all the information. So the 2 main buttons that I'm going to use here are my metadata and my return on investment report. So let's go ahead and start with the metadata. And we can see some things we have. So this metadata, you can see we have a ton of information. We've got a very small snippet of the screenshot, so we can kind of get a glimpse of, hey, is it, yeah, like right here, you can see where a lot of these are white boxes there. Maybe doesn't have any output. Hey, thank you so much for the follow. So we have a lot of information for it. You can see the status code's been responded, how many links were crawled, is there any SSL issues, etc. So we can start by just going down the list. It initially sorts everything by the crawled URLs, because to me, if it's an application that allows you to crawl and actually find several different valid URLs, then that can be a very good target. However, sometimes you end up with a situation where everyone hits a 404, but it still records it as crawled URL. These tools are not perfect. So I filtered out a couple of those here. But yeah, you always want to kind of be consistent with that. And then over here, we also have the fuzzed endpoints. If we use FFUF to go through. So this one on top immediately looks like a pretty good target. We've got a 200 status code here. We were able to crawl over 400 URLs. We've got 40 different endpoints. Now we're not seeing any SSL issues, and we'll talk about that in a minute, but there's enough here that I want to go ahead and dig in. So we can expand it out, and now we can see the actual screenshot. And okay, so we do have some stuff. This is probably like JavaScript is loading everything in, and the screenshot just took, was taken before everything was loaded. So Passion, how's it going? Appreciate you coming and hanging out with us today. So yeah, that does look like a valid one here. Let's see. We've got a Cloudflare web server, right? So Cloudflare is essentially a CDN that's going to be serving this in. So what's most likely happening is that we are making the request. Cloudflare is returning, and we can even see that down here in the CNAME in the DNS records. Cloudflare is returning all of that JavaScript initially. So that's where we see, if you typically see like those big like JavaScript chunk files and everything. And then the JavaScript starts to pull a bunch of other stuff in there to populate the page, which again is why we see that there. So that's good, right? All this is telling me. Backend is ASP.NET, not my favorite at all. You know, to be honest, I typically do like Node and things like that, but that's fine. And then yeah, content security policy. Okay, so initially content security policy, unsafe inline. So all these things are telling me that this might be worth our time, you know, and it'll be interesting to see where this comes out in the return on investment report, because the ROI report is specifically, it gives a score of value to all these and recommends which one is going to be, you know, the best for your time. So let's get this opened up. Okay, good. And this is what I wanted. So yeah, it must have just kind of needed to load all that up. I don't need you to find my location. That's fine. But we have a lot of stuff going on here. So it looks like these are valid crawl responses. Let's just kind of send a few things here. That's good. We've got some search functionality. This takes us to another domain, so we don't want to move it there, right? Always make sure that you're staying on here within the scope, although that other domain may be in scope, but that's not what we want to look at specifically here. And then they do have authentication, and we can potentially create our account. Although you may need a specific ID or anything. Maybe you can just do an email. But so yeah, so just with this is telling me enough to tell them, or this is showing me enough to say that this is worth my time. So even right away, the first one that we see, I'm going to go ahead and leave this on as one that I'm going to be testing, and we can move on to some others. Let's see. Let's take this off. Let's come down here. We got a 403. You know, we're not seeing anything from it. What happens if we actually try to load up this 403 here? Well, it does open. I wonder why we got a 403. It's possible that we got a 403. What is this? Just like a demo thing of Storybook? This is kind of weird. Yeah, this looks like just a demo environment of Storybook that's hosted on there. Interesting. I do not know what that's for. But I believe the 403 probably happened because we were doing scanning. A lot of times what will happen is the scanner will hit like a WAF or something. So that kind of tells me it may have a WAF, right? We didn't get much of anything here. And we can kind of go and check it. What are all the different crawled pieces? So it must have picked all this up from the JavaScript that was returned, even though, I don't know, I must have returned a 403, but yeah, that's fine. Storybook, I don't really want to focus too much on that as well. We do have a 404 down here. Let's see what that one looks like. Okay, and this is probably just the generic Royal Canin 404. And it just redirects over to English right there. I don't know, we could try a couple different, it is trying to translate. Oh, okay, that's interesting. Spanish, maybe? Just taking wild guesses. But okay, so yeah, so that's another one that's probably not worth too much of our time here. We got a lot of these 403s. Let's make sure that all the 403s are actually 403s. Otherwise we may, this is going to an Okta or some type of thing. Is this Okta? It is Okta. Yeah, marsgroup.okta.com. So for anybody that doesn't know, Okta is a single sign-on provider. It's used by most, like a lot of companies. And essentially, you have an account to Okta, and then what they do on their end is they set up a redirect so that when you make a GET request to this URL, on the back end, it's basically valid. It said, no, you need to log into Okta first, and then you are going to have essentially a access token that you can send that you get from Okta, and we will validate that access token because we trust Okta. So as long as Okta says that you're good, we're good. So anytime you see this, where you load up and it redirects over to a, you know, something.okta.com, you know that you're probably looking at an internal service that they use, right? So this would be like the Mars employees would probably go on and use this as part of their work. You know, this is like it says prod digital asset platform, right? So I'm betting the developers have, you know, this is like maybe a bunch of these pictures and everything back here, and the developers can go and pull these in like stock images whenever they need. That's kind of a wild guess though, bear with me there. Retro Hack, is this going to be on video on demand? Yes, it's going to be on video on demand. I'm recording it as well locally. It's going to be on YouTube as well. It's going to be released just like any of my old live streams will. It's all going to be public, right? You don't have to be a member, although I would certainly appreciate it. Membership only starts at $3, and you do get access to private members-only videos that are specifically designed to help you make money. Just saying. I'm going to throw that in there a couple times. I'm just warning you. But yeah, it'll be on video on demand, everything here. If you can't stick around for the whole thing, please, definitely be able to watch it later. Fix It 42. Hi, how's it going? Appreciate you joining us. Okay, so moving away from Okta, because I don't want anything with that. Let's start to get into some specific things here. So first of all, let's just only look at the things we're getting a 200 success in and see if any one of these are standing out. And I'm looking specifically at these screenshots here. I'm not gonna touch that one. Yeah, well, I don't know. Just looking at that, I'll tell you this. If I wasn't on stream, I would test it. If I wasn't on stream, I would test it. Just looking for a screenshot. That's all I did was look at a screenshot. I don't know about anything else. I want to show anything. But I'll tell you what, if you're following along with me, if you're doing a little bit of testing, I might test that. Just looking at the screenshot. There's enough just looking at that I'm like, I don't know if I want to touch that. We're going to move on. I should have vetted a couple of these before I did this. Okay. Now this one down here, and this is always a sign that I like to do. We got depreciated TLS, and we've got a mismatched SSL certificate. So for anybody that doesn't know TLS and SSL, those are the certificates that allow you to connect using HTTPS, you know, the encrypted we talk. Otherwise, if it's like this, if the certificate doesn't match, it's going to force you to communicate in plain text, which is only allowed if you don't have HSTS. But these are always a really big sign for me because it tells me that this is probably not being actively maintained. If they've allowed the TLS certificate to depreciate, or they're using an outdated version, I think is what specifically this means here. So we have a 404 on the root domain. The 404 on the root domain means that it is most likely an API. If it's being used at all, it's most likely an API, because an API, they're not going to expect a user to come into the root endpoint. They would expect it to be, you know, the individual actions, right? So it would be like, you know, I mean, probably start with ping and then like, you know, update user, get user, whatever. You know, I mean, it's an API. It's just designed for software to talk to each other. And it looks like it just kind of found that same thing. Let's see what happens when we open it as well. Do we get the... Well, no, it looks like they fixed the certificate. It may still be mismatched. Well, it's just showing my port swigger. Oh, maybe that's why. Maybe it's just showing the port swigger one right there. But I wonder just real quick. Well, it's redirecting us over to here. Okay, so there's a redirect to this global protect login.esp. And then that, and then here's our not found. Huh. So we have two different 404 responses based on, I don't know. I mean, now what could happen is this just the way the 404 comes through the ESP and then the web server itself has its own. That's probably what's happening. Or it's using 404 as a way to kind of obfuscate what's happening. So like maybe there is, you can include a cookie or a header. Like they expect you to already be authenticated at this point. If you're not, it just returns a 404 as opposed to, you know, returning something else. I'm not sure. But that one doesn't seem like it's enough. It's worth my time. Let's see if we have any other ones that are depreciated. Let's just say has some issues. That's the only one that we get a 200 on. We do have some over here though, and it looks like they all have the same blue, which I believe is a .NET, or yeah, Azure application. Are we still getting the same stuff? We are. Okay. And all these look like they're, this was a 403. Okay, so these are all Azure apps. The only one that would really look interesting as far as the depreciated and mismatched certificate there would be this one at the top. I think one thing that I would do, and maybe we'll keep it up there just to try it, is I might fuzz, you know, things here. Let me see what happens when I do arson.esp. How many different 404s are we gonna have? This one's weird, man. So we got that 404. We got that 404. And then we got that 404. That's enough for me to want to just kind of see what's going on. If nothing else, it's just for my, you know, I just want to know. That's an interesting one. All right. So I'm going to keep that on the list as well. Again, everything as we're going through this, like I said, fixture UI is being populated within here. And of course, we're going through, that's claiming it's got some, this is almost always not true. So, you know, almost always false positive. Same thing with that right there, but we can definitely check it out. So we're getting some good data. I like, again, I want to know what's going on with this. I love this one. This one definitely is going to have a lot of return on investment for you if you are a bug bounty hunter there. So, all right, let's move away from this. Let's come back over to our 200s, and then let's kind of come down. So which one of these is also sticking out? This looks like another internal. Oh! Thank you so much for the subscribe. Good grief, that is loud though. Sorry, I can figure this out. Thank you so much. That's amazing. All right, so we got a Mars. I'm sure, let's see. Copy this over and let's just see what this is, right? Google's our friend. And this is the fantastic thing about Gemini value. It used to be you'd have to search this and go and look at all these different things, but now a lot of times you just go and drop it in here. Gemini is going to tell you everything you need to know. So it says a Mars trading partner portal is generally an online system for businesses like billing, companies, vendors, clearinghouses to connect. Okay, so that's good to know. Now, so I guess it's probably a trading partner portal, and then is this just the Mars one, or is, I'm betting, yeah, if you just do what is a trading partner portal. So yeah, I think what we're looking at here is that this is Mars's version of a trading partner portal, and then we can hit login. Oh, login opens up this separate thing there. So they are using an OAuth with Microsoft. And yeah, so there you can start to see the thing. So yeah, if you like to do auth testing, this would be an opportunity here. Now, if you can get access to this, it'd be good. I don't know if there's any CVEs. No, I don't know if this is a specific one, or now I'm thinking this is something that they built themselves. Initially, I was thinking this was a third-party thing that they purchased and they're using, but now I'm thinking it's not. I don't love that because, you know, if you just have a login, there's not a huge attack surface. You're basically stuck to those unauthenticated apps. And so, you know, so we can try something later, but yeah, I don't love that one. Let's come down and see this yellow one. It's kind of standing. Oh, that's just a Palo Alto. Most likely a VPN, right? Connection to a VPN. Woo! Firefox didn't like that. I don't know why it's flagging it as that, but that's fine. We'll stay away from that. I'm pretty sure it's fine. And then this one's, that's very cute. It's one of the things, and one of the other reasons I like this one. They have a bunch of dog stuff on here. So, BCS tool. So once again, it looks like we're looking at another internal application. Yep, fairly simple. What's the? Let me find this over here so I can come and say. Again, they're claiming there's credentials on there. I find that very unlikely, but. Here's those JavaScript files I was talking about, right? So we load it in, then we get these big JavaScript files that are basically making everything happen, especially your main right here is going to be da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. We got all types of different stuff right there. So I'm not seeing any other endpoints immediately popping up. We've just got that image, I assume, of the dogs there. What happens if we hit login? So we're taken to a signin/dev.gdp. Interesting. GDP is usually like a governance, so it kind of works closely. The compliance team kind of works closely with the cybersecurity engineering team and everything. But this is another SSO implementation, or a single sign-on. Yeah, SSO implementation. So they have, it looks like OAuth with Google, with Facebook, with Apple, and then this one doesn't even have anything on it. What is this one supposed to be? Test workforce. So yeah, this is definitely a dev target over here. This is not on the same subdomain. So check and make sure. Let's just say, copy this over here. Come back over to HackerOne. Yeah, does look like it's within scope, and they've got 157 different ones in there. So, yeah, I'll tell you what, I'm not going to include it for this just because I want to stay on the FM subdomain or wildcard target. But I would take a look at this. This is something that I may go back and do some testing on there because I mean, what is this, right? Like, what happens if we click this button? Just as a bad request here. So that must be something that they're getting integrated with eventually. But yeah, we've got a dev instance here. I assume these are going to open up, try to do Google, everything. So yeah, especially if you're OAuth. Oh, and you can sign up as well. Oh, so okay. So you have the ability to make an account here, and I'm betting it gets you access to a ton of these different Royal Canin ones. So yeah, this might be a good target. And then how does the dev connect back with production? You would assume not or nothing at all, but you'd be surprised. Actually, one of the things we can check with that too, where's our burp suite here? Let's take a look at the content security policy that comes back. So first of all, wide open up here, right? We got data, unsafe inline, unsafe hashes, unsafe eval, any of the Royal Canins, any of the Cloud FMs, any of Mars, yeah. So it's possible that this may be more connected to the production environment than they would like to do. So again, not going to focus on that for here, but signin/dev.gdp.royalcanin.com. I would go ahead and classify that as a good target, especially if you want to do OAuth testing. I mean, this is so much complexity. So much complexity. That's always what I'm looking for. So much complexity. You've got the email, you got the multiple different OAuths, right? Can you link these together? What if there's already an email address, but they don't have any OAuth, and you have a PayPal with that, email address somehow or something? Go look at the research that Gareth Hayes did with emails and bypassing the sanitization and everything. He did some really cool work a couple years ago at DEF CON. What are the common vulnerabilities in Auth version 2 like Google? So yeah, I think what you're specifically asking is OAuth, which is what we're looking at here, which, by the way, definitely, if you're going to test for OAuth, you got to read the RFC. I know it sucks. I know nobody thinks these things are fun to read, but you've got to understand everything about how it works, everything about all these, how it's actually implemented. So to answer your question, there's a bunch of different types of vulnerabilities. So the most common ones are going to be things like you've got a state token that is usually sent. Actually, we can see it right up here, right? A state token. So that essentially acts as a CSRF, a cross-site request forgery token. So if you don't see a state token, then it's entirely possible that you can basically execute a CSRF attack and be able to steal a valid access token as they log in. So that's a very common one. I'm just going through like some of the easiest ones. Looks like we'd have to click it to do the rest. The redirect URI, there's usually a parameter that's a redirect URI. If they are not validating the domain, that redirect URI typically shows where the access token is going to be sent back to. So if you can control that and have it sent to a server that you control, you're obviously going to be able to steal that access token. So that's just a couple examples of like the most common ones there. But yeah. So research by who? Can you repeat? What do you mean? Sorry, I don't know what exactly you mean there. I don't know what I said about research, but I was saying like anybody that's doing bug bounty hunting and researchers, I use those terms interchangeably, hunter and researcher. Yeah, because it's they're kind of the same thing there. Oh yeah, so when I said OAuth research, what I meant was OAuth hunting. Now, if you're doing like actual research and going in there and like, doing your own research to find new novel attacks, which I definitely recommend, and it's something that actually my team and I are working on right now. But yeah, when I say doing research or if I say hunting, I use those terms interchangeably. A lot of times I just don't like to say the word hunting over and over and over again. Research makes it sound a little more flowery. Yeah, you're late. Will it be recorded on YouTube? Yes, it will, and it's should be live streaming on YouTube as well. But for some reason, I think it's not working. It tells me it's working, but it says it's not. So, but yeah, 100%. The recording of this will be on YouTube. I mean, at the latest tomorrow morning. I'm going to try to get it on there tonight. It takes a lot of time to go through and process the videos and upload it and do that type of stuff. So, but yeah, 100%. It'll be on YouTube. All right. Yeah, by the way, OAuth, definitely recommend. One other thing I'll put on here too. Book.hacktricks. Always recommend this. Did I type in wiki? Book.hacktricks at XYZ. Is it not there anymore? No way. I must have just had a typo. There you go. Okay, I was going to say. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I typed wiki I don't know what in the world I did there. Anyway, can't recommend this enough. Carlos is incredible. And then you can do OAuth in here. And they have changed how the search works. That's fine. There we go. Okay, took me a little bit to get there, but yeah, so tons and tons of information about all the different ways that you can use this to get an account takeover. OAuth vulnerability specifically, you're trying to get an account takeover from people there. I was talking about AWS Cognito and everything too. So, all right. So yeah, definitely a good target here for testing. I love that. Let's go ahead and move on to a few of the other ones here. Here's another one that kind of looks interesting. So yeah, this is more from Azure. This looks like it's very similar to an AWS Lambda. We have essentially function as a service, it looks like. So this is probably another API that's looking for a specific type of request. Let me see if I can, what is this? PRD, WEU, da-da-da. Let's see if we find anything else on here. Yeah, may fuzz for endpoints. What you would be looking here is trying to find the endpoint is, but it's going to take a lot of fuzzing. This is one that if you happen to crack it and figure out what it's doing, you're probably going to be the first one there. You really may find something, but it's super recon heavy. You're going to spend most of your time just sending requests and trying to get some type of valid response. So I would set that up on a very slow running script on the back end that does like one request every 2 seconds, let it run for days or weeks, and then just hope that I came back, something popped up. I do think that this, we got a lot of information coming back from this. I'm not familiar with this server at all, but again, I'm not very familiar with Azure, so that easily could be the reason. But all right, not for me. If anybody wants to play with that, go for it, but that's not the one that I'm looking for. This one, the name just kind of sounds interesting to me. And it's pointing at, we got a lot of these that are pointing to Azure. This must be a lot of their cloud infrastructure that they have. Yeah, and then once again, so we're moving over, we're doing OAuth with this here. So once again, you can see we got our client ID, we've got our scope. The scope is going to tell it what you're allowed to do and what you're not. So user read all, you can get the open ID, profile, client access. Here's our redirect URI. So if we were able to log in, this is what we could manipulate to try to find out. Like we could send this over to, I would send it to arsonsecurity.com because that's what I own, and then see if it comes through. And then again, do we see a state token anywhere? We can also get into Pixie at some point, which is, there's all types of stuff in here. There's your state token right there for your CSRF. So, okay, yeah. So this is another internal service that they're using. That's why we're seeing not much of a screenshot here. So let's move on to the next page. Here's one that's kind of standing out as well, although it looks like a splash page. Welcome to Sitecore. Is that an offering from Cloudflare maybe? I do not know. Or this is maybe just another third-party thing here. You were asking, yes, it is a, oh, what's up, Decrypt? Yes, it is a Microsoft login. It's not a B2C though, or B2B or whatever we've been looking for though. Can we test for open redirect here, or it's connect to an OAuth token? So no, I mean, open redirect's not going to get you anything for an OAuth. What you want to test for at places like that is a, not here, but back where we had the OAuth. You want to test for misconfigurations in their OAuth. So again, that's where you really need to understand how OAuth works first, and then, or you start to learn the misconfigurations, right? OAuth is very complex. First of all, I'm gonna get up on a soapbox here for just 1 second. Do you see the word authentication anywhere in that title? Anybody who sees the word authentication in that title, you let me know. OAuth is an authorization framework. If OAuth is being used exclusively for your authentication, there's no additional authentication required. So you just go and log into this other service and it implicitly trusts that authentication. That in and of itself is not a correct pattern. That adds a lot of complexity and stuff. So that's something that I always look for. If OAuth is set and is their main way of authenticating, you know, you already have something that's not right? But anyway, that's just something that used to drive me crazy as a, you know, I've been a blue team guy for like the past 4 or 5 years, right? I do bug bounty hunting on the side and do my YouTube videos and consulting and pen testing and all that stuff through my company. But fundamentally, I'm a blue team guy. Fundamentally, my job for the past 4 or 5 years has been to protect companies internally. And so I have to go to the developers all the time and try to explain to them why they can't use an authorization framework for authentication. Okay, I'm done. But yeah, so essentially what you're doing is, I mean, an authorization framework, it's very complex. You've seen there's a lot of different variables and things there. So it's essentially a business logic testing. You're testing the logic of that. And in order to do that, you have to know, I mean, there's a ton of different ways that you can get this set up. You know, so OAuth, you know, you've got all these different, you know, you've got code grant down here, you've got implicit flows, you've got all different types of ways that this can be configured. And there's so much complexity in it. A lot of times people set it up that they don't necessarily understand it. And so that's what you have to go through. You have to understand how it works. You have to understand all the different things. And then can you manipulate those values that are in the parameters and through the flow of requests in a way that would, you know, cause you to be able to steal something and get access to their account. In most cases, you're usually trying to get access to either an access token or a refresh token. And a refresh token is typically just used to get a new valid access token. And you can see a couple of those kind of mentioned here. You can see they do have some stuff. So now open redirects do come into play in the sense that if you can force the request that includes a valid access token or a refresh token to go out of their domain into a domain that you control, then you can do that. But that's typically done with the redirect URI parameter. And then if the redirect URI parameter is validated, then what you can do, if you find another domain that is within that the redirect URI can be set to, and that domain has an open redirect that goes outside of their domain, that's where you can use that, right? So in an open redirect vulnerability, in most cases, that's what I call a chaining bug. That's something that you can kind of sit on there and say, okay, I've got this, now how do I find a way to really use it? So you would come and then you would say, oh, Well, the redirect URI, it doesn't allow me to send to arsonsecurity.com. It validates that. But it does allow it to go to, royalcanin.com. And I've got this other royalcanin.com that has an open redirect. So I will change the domain so it takes advantage of that open redirect, sends it over to the Royal Canin, and that bounces through the open redirect to a server that I control. And now I've got an OAuth misconfiguration. Well, actually, that's not even an OAuth misconfiguration, but it's just leveraging that mechanism to show impact on the open redirect there. All right, cool. I said I'm really interested in OAuth vulnerabilities. Auth in and auth z topics are really cool. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm glad. Yeah, by the way, Decrypt, I'll let him kind of talk a little bit in there, but he is a very, very talented when it comes to OAuth stuff. So if you want somebody to know, I did testing on it for a while, and yeah, him and I have been kind of digging in with our team here. Decrypt is on our little bug bounty hunting team as well. So like I said, he's a wealth of knowledge there, and has a very cool framework if you want to check it out. You try, you do. You don't just try, you do, man. I've seen it. All right, let me hop back over here. Yeah, OAuth is a great one. Again, OAuth is another one. Going back to our conversation in the beginning, stay away from the injection vulnerabilities. Go to the ones that are more complex, that are that a lot of people don't test. If you're just starting out, OAuth, it can be a really great one to learn. It can take a little while to learn. You're going to have to know how it works, right? I recommend going and building a couple apps that use OAuth. It's super easy now, just kind of figure it out. But yeah. Okay, let's see what else we got. Do we have any other one that's kind of just poking out here? We can move over to our return on investment report at some point if we want. Here's another one that, is this another, what happens when we go to an endpoint? Okay, so this must be a Node API. So it says it's running Node.js. We've got this thing, your app is up and running here. Now, when I come and get my 404, this is Express. This is, in fact, hold on. I haven't even touched this yet. I guarantee you. Express, what'd I say? Yeah. I've seen this a million times, right? This is Express. So this Express is a library for the backend written in Node. So this is almost definitely an API. This goes back to what I was saying before, just kind of slowly go through and fuzz everything through there. Or slowly kind of start pinging different endpoints, see if you can find something individually. The thing you need to know about Node backends compared to things like Python backends, especially if it's Django, PHP backends, things like that. In Node, you have to explicitly say whether or not a method can be used, an HTTP verb can be used, right? So whereas in other languages and frameworks, they will essentially register an endpoint, and then they have conditionals to say, if the request is a get, do this. If the request is a post, do this. And then you can end up finding vulnerabilities, because if they don't do that well, then you can end up having like a GET request that works in the way that a POST request would, right? So you can add, if it was a login, you could use username equals blah, 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 and password equals blah, blah, right there. If they didn't handle it properly, this might work, and you could log in doing that, and it's, there's a lot of vulnerabilities that can come from that. On Node, you have to, or with Express, really, you have to explicitly say, you register the endpoint, and then you do like .get, and it's that registers that for that specific method. So if you find a Node Express app, typically not a great idea to spend your time testing for like all the different HTTP verbs, because it would have to be explicitly put in there, which is much rarer. What I do like to test for when I see Node Express everything, this is very, very common. Developers will, let me think of the best way to describe this. So they have developers have a post request coming into the application that's going to change something or do something, whatever it is, right? It's having data that's going to modify something. What they should do is only send from the front end the data that is needed for the change, and then in the Express code in the back end, they should take those individual pieces out of the JSON object and use them how they need them, right? What developers will do for convenience is they will, on the front end, take an entire object instead of just the data points that they need, and they will send it to the backend. And then the backend will take that entire object, and especially if you see like a put request, they'll just put it straight into the database. And their thinking is, well, the form is only going to change these couple values, and so, you know, we don't need to worry about it. But if you put it into Burp and you start, like, you can put anything within that object, or you can change other values you shouldn't be able to change, that works a lot more. So when you see a node backend with Express, like I said, don't test as much for the HTTP verbs. Instead, go to any put request, post request, things that are updating or you know, changing existing information, and see if you can change those other values. If it sends an object in to do the request and the response includes that same object, but there are additional key value pairs that you didn't have in your object, take those, add them into your request, see if you can change them. If the developers are just taking that object and throwing it in the database, which happens all the time, you're going to be able to find something. All right, somebody I see some conversation in the chat. Somebody let me know if I'm missing anything here. You see this output a lot. Can we test for cross-site scripting, or is it protected from the framework stuff? So no, so Express is a back-end framework. So it's not gonna do anything to protect against cross-site scripting. We could certainly, so ultimately what you need is reflected input, right? So we have our reflected input here. The request is coming in, it's coming out here. The problem that you're gonna run in with typically, first of all, Express does automatically, it's built in that it'll validate for this. So what you're hoping for is that they're using something else on top of Express before it gets to this point, but it's kind of rare. Long story short, like I wouldn't test this for cross-site scripting, because for the most part, you're probably going to see that the hex encoding is just naturally going to take care of it. And this is one of those situations where if they just rely on the natural hex encoding like this does, and there's no additional complexity in there, then it's going to be not very likely that you're going to be able to find something there. So you certainly can test this. You never know what's going to be back there, but I wouldn't spend more than 5 minutes on it if you see it. If it looks like a custom 404, so if it's something you haven't seen, they built out their own custom 404 page, then 100%. But something's coming straight from a framework, you know, this has been tested to death. If you could get it, you're essentially doing CVE research on Express at that point. All right. So let's get out of this one. And let's see what else we can find. We already did that one there. Ooh, we got a lot of new colorful stuff here. Here's another one of those function as a serp. Think. Oh, this one's running a few different kinds. Let's see how this one kind of does differently. Yeah, and I do think this is an ISC or an ISS response. Where's the thing here? Let's come down to the proxy. Yeah, ASP.NET. So yeah, I typically associate ASP.NET with the ISS servers. I think that's right. ISS. Gosh, I'm so bad with Windows. Sorry. Now, if you could get reflected input here, although you're still probably doing CVE search on ASP.NET, but we got text HTML. There's no reason for this to be text HTML, right? This should just be text plain, and then there's no chance for those HTML characters to be rendered. So that's another pointer that I would look at there. All right, moving back. This looks like another Okta, right? So again, here's our redirect URI, everything here. If I'm gonna look for OAuth vulnerabilities, I would not focus on Okta. A lot of those are gonna be very standardized. Doesn't mean it doesn't happen, right? Doesn't mean it doesn't, you know, there's not gonna be anything there, but typically I'm looking for custom OAuth implementation, so it's something within a login or anything else around there. What's this one here? Quantum machine learning. This has got to be like a third party. And then, yeah, now we've got our OAuth thing there. So, okay, we'll tell you what. that's interesting. We've gotten a couple targets here that we can look at. Let's hop out of the metadata results and let's come over to our return on investment report. And again, what this part of the framework does, it uses all the same data that we had before, but it's also going to calculate this score that's going to tell you what the tool believes the return on investment is going to be for a bug bounty researcher, right? And it does a whole bunch of different, right? It's like how many different endpoints are there? What is the technology? Are we finding a web application firewall? Are we seeing any SSL issues down here? Is all there? I've got all different calculations that I've written up in there. But so this one, I think, unless I'm wrong, is the one that we were looking at before. It is. Okay, perfect. So the first one that we picked, the first one that popped up here is also the one that has the highest score here. So once again, I mean, of all of these things that we've looked at, this one looks really, really great. Block it again. We've already got this set up. But that does validate what I said before. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add this one as a URL scope target right there. And then what that's going to do, this is all new in the framework, by the way. I got a new version that's coming up here very soon. You can see it's already added it as a URL scope target. And I've started to build out that workflow there. So we can come to that later. First, we're going to come over here. It takes a second for the ROI report to load. And now we have that added in. Because again, right now at this part of the workflow, that's what we're looking to do, is identify which one of these is going to be worth our time. You know. Yeah. For anybody who missed it yesterday, Decrypt was in there showing his framework off a little bit and everything. So we're going to be hopping in and out of the voice chat in the Discord channel. Again, link for the Discord channel will be in the description once this is on YouTube. So let me know. And go and join there. Got the new Discord set up about 2 weeks ago. We've already got, I think, close to 600 people in there, which I'm very, very excited about. This looks like another version of the same thing. Yep, another version of the same page. So now let's come down here. So we've got prod, Sitecore BF CD2, prod, new Sitecore BF. So maybe this is an older version of that, since this one says new. I'm not sure. But don't assume that if you don't find any vulnerabilities in this URL, don't assume they're the same thing. Don't assume they're the same thing. Yeah, fix it. There's a new Discord. For anybody that doesn't know, a while ago when I first started doing all this, I had a Discord, grew it up to about 1,300 people, I believe. And, I'm working full time. I'm making YouTube. I've got friends and family, and I also want to have a bit of a life as well. And a couple bad actors decided to spray links with malware constantly through there and just kind of really, really take advantage of it. We also had some people that were in there that were certainly trying to take advantage of it, that were just, adding people left or right. I just didn't have time to moderate it. But now I do. I want to do it. So we have a new one. It's a lot more structured, a lot more controlled. We are focusing on quality as opposed to quantity. We're looking to get people in there that want to work together, that want to help other people, as opposed to people that just want to come in and demand answers to their questions immediately. It's been going very, very well so far. So I'm definitely recommend checking it out. The other thing I would say, obviously, like my content up until this point has been very bug bounty focused. This is true of the Discord, but it's going to be true of everything else kind of moving forward. I want to expand that scope a little bit and really start, bug bounty is still going to be the central focus and the backbone of everything, but I want to help anybody that wants to essentially break away from the corporate environment, or, make a living for themselves on their own using their tangible skills. And then the Discord is going to be a way that we can bring people together with that. So as we continue to grow it, what I want to have is, obviously we're going to have a lot of people that are bug bounty hunters, but eventually those people, they may want to start their own company like I did, and they may want to actually start selling penetration testing services or other consulting services and things like that. And I want to have not only resources and things that can help you do that, help you monetize your cybersecurity skills and your technical skills outside of bug bounties, but also I want to bring people into the fold, into the community that can help with that as well. So maybe we have somebody that doesn't know a lot about technical stuff. They're kind of just starting their bug bounty journey, but they've been in technical sales. their entire career and had a lot of success with that, right? So let's take this individual that has the sales skills and some basic technical knowledge, and let's connect them with the person that has, you know, the technical ability and wants to start growing their own business, and we can find a way to make something mutually like a win-win scenario for them, you know, and they can kind of work out whatever that is. But like, so what I've done in the past with my friends that are salespeople at different, you know, tech companies here, is I've gone to them and say, hey, I'm looking to sell penetration tests. Everyone that you bring to me, every customer that you bring to me that I close and it actually becomes a real penetration test, I'm going to give you 10% of that. And we'll, you know, you can do like a very simple contract and draft it up. And then I sit back and go do my other stuff. And I have these people, you know, they're out there talking and hanging out and doing everything. And all of a sudden they'll call me and say, I've got somebody for you. And I now have what's called an inbound lead. And then I go in, I talk to them. I end up selling that pen test for 20 or 30K, you know, 14-day pen test on like an application, maybe some cloud stuff involved. That goes right, but you know, this person just got $2,000 or $3,000 just for essentially making a connection, and that's a customer that I never would have gotten. I get it right. That's a win-win scenario for both people. So that's eventually I want to build out the Discord and this whole community to where not only can we have bug bounty hunting and everything, but all these different ways that we can bring people together to where they can find these win-win scenarios and kind of grow and do what they want to do. You know, if you're a salesperson, you can create your own company that's essentially just generating different sales leads. And if you've got this community with 30 different people that are constantly looking for inbound leads, now all of a sudden you just write and you start kind of shopping around. So yeah, that's my little spiel on that. I really think, I've talked about this before, where AI and everything is right now and where it's going and what I've seen happen in the corporate environment, especially over the past year or two, we're going to need a pipeline to a senior engineer or kind of making your own money in some way. I mean, it's just these, you know, you're not going to have a lot of junior engineers that are going to need to be hired on. I don't think, I hope I'm wrong. Again, I've talked about this a lot. I hope I'm wrong, but I really see where everything is going, where it's, I think there's going to be a lot of individuals that are monetizing their skills and the things that they're passionate about and leveraging all these different tools, as opposed to where it used to be, you have to go out there and find a company or a large system to kind of go and speak with that. So yeah, we'll see. Oh, great. Thank you for dropping an invite in there. Yes. Giving learning. Oh yeah. I love is that Bob Ross? That's an interesting Bob Ross. Yeah. If anybody hasn't seen my picture there, although my hair is actually kind of getting back there, but, okay. I got to get off my soapbox here. Let me get a little more copy here. Oh, that one, the link to my profile says it's expired, which, I don't know if you're talking about me, but if it is, just let me know which profile here. I don't know. I've got, you know, 2 weeks ago, I kind of officially started this whole thing, and I've got so many different plates spinning or so many different, you know, balls going in the air that, yeah, I'm trying to get everything. Over time, everything will kind of smooth out. It's amazing how, I mean, I spent like 4 hours just working on OBS yesterday, and here we are. For whatever reason, YouTube doesn't even want to work with me. So, the Discord link in the description of the channel, was that the on the Twitch profile? Okay, I'll get that sorted. Thank you so much. Yeah, I'll get that sorted then. Yeah, that's probably pointing to the old server there. Okay, so I'm going to add this as well, because like I said, again, even though these are essentially the same thing, or at least they look to be the same application, it's very likely that they could have completely different vulnerabilities in it, right? There's not usually going to be feature parity between the two. There should be, right? But it's best laid plans. Again, anybody, if you, the people that I talk to that, you know, are like, oh, there's no bugs out there, I want to bring them in and just work one day on an application security blue team and see what that job is really like. Because it's like when the bugs get to production, when the vulnerabilities get to production, that is not a failure of the security team. It, like, there's so many different like you don't have the ability to test and find them all. Like, forget the fact that everybody's moving so fast, it wouldn't be possible even if you spent all your time doing it. But 90% of the time you're doing, you know, other stuff. 90% of the time you're, you know, trying to convince leadership that a vulnerability should even be fixed in the first place because of this and that. You're trying to articulate the risk and all that. You're building out the systems that are going into the CI/CD. So if you ever start to think like, hey, there's no bugs out there, I promise, talk to somebody who's on a AppSec blue team role, and yeah, they'll make you feel better about it. They're certainly out there. Okay, so probably going to be We'll keep those two there. Yeah, that's right. And this is the next one. Now, the response we're getting is a 403. It got 232 crawl results, though. But it doesn't look like it pulled a lot more. This is our storybook one, isn't it? The one that we saw before. Yeah, this is storybook. Okay. I still don't know why this is showing a 403. Decrypt, let me know if you've ever seen anything with storybook here. I don't know if this is just like a preview of something. Let's just try. Storybook application is an open source front-end workshop for building, testing, and documenting UI components. Okay, sure. So it's like a Figma. It's an open source Figma or anything, though. Yeah. No, it looks like it's on dev. It just looks like a generic thing, like they don't have any custom assets that I'm seeing. Like it seems like this was just more. You know what I bet this was? I'll bet you anything. Again, this goes back to I've seen this stuff. I'll bet you anything this was a proof of concept. They essentially said internally, we want to see if Storybook is going to work for us. So somebody threw this up there as a test environment, and then either they're still using it or it just never got taken down, which is probably a lot more. I mean, probably not, I'm not going to actually run this, but just, I mean, almost probably not, that's probably not going to work, but that's something that I might try. Yeah. Emotion, React. Yeah. So, can we see a version anywhere? Another thing I might check for is is there a version? Let's see. Hey, said Mr. Planet said you kind of take the front end components. Yeah, I think the 403 that I got Decrypt was because I was scanning a little bit too much. That's I assume it probably just got it because it was part of the scan. I haven't seen any 403s coming back from this now. It gives a 200 every time. But yeah, should be protected by something, by at least a VPN or anything, but also doesn't mean there's anything necessarily there. I like that. I like that URL. Stage, merch, admin, curator. Oh, maybe in the response headers. Let me take a look. No, nothing. Just got this super open content security policy. We know they have OneTrust. What is Hotjar? Is this all for the scripts? I feel like if you can find a cross-site scripting, you're going to be able to have some fun with it because their content security policy is wide open. I don't know. But I'm interested in this. What else do we have? There's our response preview. Nothing else that was crawled. We got a 200 though. HSTS. Okay, so we've got a lot of client. Interesting. What in the world? Stage merch admin, Cloud FM security login. So we got login via Mac, I assume. Well, and that just takes you over to that one. Or here's a local login provider cookies. What in the world is going on here, man? All right. I might have to stop. Look at that, man. The redirect URL. Well, I guess, is there a difference between the URL and the URI in the RFC? That's a terrible sentence with a lot of acronyms. I don't need to pull up the RFC. Typically, I don't see this to where you can, typically you need to have a domain there. This is just endpoints, right? This is just the %2f is that backslash there. So this is API authorization, authorize, provider, and then it's got some additional stuff there. This is strange. Yeah. Now, can you test it without being able to log in? Because a lot of times with OAuth, you've got to actually be able to log in order to do that. Yeah, Scream cases. Now we're talking. Yeah, there was another one, and for anybody who was watching earlier, there was a screenshot of one that that looked super interesting. Decrypt said, "I've seen that where they can use the host name." Yeah. I think it'd have to be on the login too. Or are you thinking the GET request just to get this page here? I'm not sure, but this is definitely something I'd take a look at. I don't know what's going on. Maybe we can see. Oh, I can't even copy that. And then we got this other button here. This just takes us to the other login type, or just takes us back to the main page there. So, yeah, that's I'm gonna classify that as worth my time. So let's go ahead and get that added as a URL scope target as well. And I'll get another. Is this the same thing? Yep, same thing. So once again, don't assume that they both have the same vulnerabilities. In fact, probably assume that there is some difference between the two. Yeah. All right, let's try this new one here. Let's try this new one. I'm going to move on from this one here. Yeah, so we've just got some more third-party stuff. Huh. Come over here to the login. This looks like it's not actually sending the redirect URI. So that's how you know they're validating, or at least they're checking to make sure the redirect URI is there. Any other good information here? This just is a C name that goes over to it fastly. Wonder why we have the A records and the C name. That's fine. Not gonna bother with this one. This is probably the same thing. Yeah, same thing right there. Yeah. Let's see about this one. Oh, once again, OAuth flow. We looked at this one before. This one was the 404. So we could try and test a few different things. I think we're probably just going to get a lot of 404s. Defaults to a different language. That's interesting there. Try a few more of these, and then we can kind of hop over to something else. Oh, here's a post-it. Yeah. So we're seeing a lot of our internal things. I'm betting that this domain is used for like cloud services. We're seeing a lot of CNAME records, which for anybody who doesn't know, by the way, bug bounty hunting, so important to understand DNS records. They tell an incredible story. If you don't, and they're not that hard to learn. If you don't understand the different DNS records, especially A record and CNAME record are fairly important. PTR record as well, but a CNAME record just points one domain to another domain. That's all it does. So you'll see this a lot, right? So when you make a request to this domain here, all it does is through the DNS, it converts it to this. Whereas an A record, you make a request to this, it converts it to an IP address directly and tells it where to put it on there. So let's see. All right, we'll come through a few more, see if there's anything else really interesting that pops up here. Please log in to access to the portal. How do we log in? We go over to the OAuth like I figured. Okay, not worth my time. What about you? Oh, that's the one I didn't want to click on. Okay, we're done. Again, I have no idea what that is, but it looks super, it looks like I don't want to touch it, at least not on stream. Hey, it's out there in the thing, but yeah. If I was going to test something, it might be on my list. Let's just say that. Decrypt, I'll DM you, man. Trust me, we're going to talk about this one. Don't mind. Yeah, or don't worry. Just, I'm not going to talk about it on stream right now. Again, I mean, I could be totally wrong. It could be just like something else. Storybook looked kind of interesting to me at first until I realized the thing. But man, I've been doing this a long time, and just at a glance, that page looks interesting. So, uh, is everybody watching? Oh wait, oh, it took me back to the first one. Wait, it's not supposed to do that. What happened? Okay, all right, yeah, you'll have to go back. You'll have to go back. All right, let me do this. I need to go hit the head real quick. I'll be right back. And we are going to jump over into the actual URL workflows, the ones that we found, and start to gather some information on it, start to run Burp Suite on it, and kind of move into that direction, right? Move closer into manual recon and everything I talked about. We're very similar to what we do on that one video. So I'll be right back. And I don't have a screen to cover up here, so y'all just kind of stare at my background while I'm gone. Be right back. All right, I'm back. I found a puppy. Want to say hi? No? You just want to lay back down? Okay. Thought I'd give you a chance there. Go on there. You just lay down. Don't worry, he has free range. I don't keep him in a spot with a shock collar or anything like that. Topical reference. Maybe not topical anymore. That's okay. All right, catching up on the chat here real quick before we move on. Yeah, Burst Suite. Yeah, Kaido was great. In fact, yeah, Decrypt, I think you were using Kaido recently. But yeah, for me, I've been using Burst Suite for a long time. I've had, I think for 6 years now, I've bought the Pro version every year. I was using Community for a long time for that. So like Kaido is great. I've seen a lot of great stuff with it. I'm just stuck on Burp Suite at this point. And it is, Kaido has a lot of really cool stuff that you can't do with Burp Suite. But yeah, I'm just kind of stuck on at this point. Oh, switch. Yeah. Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, I was holding him up. You couldn't even see him. Hold on. There you go, Tanky. Come say hi real quick. Come say hi real quick. I know you're so sleepy, but all you do is sleep. You don't need to be so sleepy. You want to say hi? You want to say hi? Have kisses? No? Okay, Baba. All right, there you go. That's my little guy. That's Tank. He's super ferocious. I'm gonna stop bothering him now. He can lay down there and relax and enjoy his day. Oh man, coffee is good. Coffee is good. By the way, going back to talking about kind of leaning into doing my own thing and running my own company, I am having a conversation with a local coffee roaster that I'm a huge fan of. It's a very small family-owned coffee roaster here in Houston that we may potentially have a couple arson themed coffee brews that may be available for anybody that wants to order it. So stand by for that. Stand by for that. I'd be very excited to be able to do something like that. Okay. All right. So we're back here. And let's, I guess I can open it up to, compared to a Chihuahua. Yeah, no, he's bigger than a Chihuahua for sure. I adopted Tank. I adopted my dog from Austin Pets Alive, which is in Austin, Texas. It's a phenomenal no-kill shelter. I donate to them every year. One of the main places that I donate to every year. Can't recommend them enough. Phenomenal people. They take dogs from all over the country, really, but mostly from the state of Texas. They never. It's a no-kill shelter. They never do that. And yeah, I get it from him. So, but anyway, so what they said is when he got there, because he's about 2 years old, his hair, he looked like a mop. Like all of his hair had like kind of been matted, like dreadlocks, and was hanging down, blows and everything. And they said that he'd probably been on his own most of his life. And so what probably happened, they said, was that he was probably sold by a breeder as like a teacup Yorkie. And he's not a Yorkie. He's what's called an Australian Silky Terrier, which they get much bigger. They can be much more of a handful, right? They're bred to hunt rats. And so he's just, he's got this crazy prey drive. He'll just shoot off out of nowhere and everything. So yeah, these breeders will sell them as like really expensive, these little teacup Yorkies, and they grow big, and then it's like the family can't take care of them. And eventually, they said he probably got out, and the family just was never able to do anything about it. So it's terrible stuff. But he's got a good life now. I'll tell you that. He's about as pampered as a dog could be. So yeah. All right, just catching up on the chat here and make sure I'm not missing anything, but yeah, all good stuff. Okay, so I guess I can leave it up to the chat if anybody wants. Is there a specific page that we want to look at? I know that eventually we're going to come around to this one, but maybe we can take a look at, was this one the one here? Not this one. I got too many different tabs up now. Should be this one here. Yeah, I think one of those two. So yeah, this is the one that I think probably has the largest attack surface and everything here. So and then we can come over here as well. These are all within the scope. Good grief. Okay, we've gotten a bunch of stuff in here. So let's get the scope narrowed down a little bit just for while we are testing. And then we can get this removed later. Now, if we do show landscope items again, it should be filtering it. Why is it not? What is going on here? I swear I always have problems with the sitemap filtering. There we go. Okay, guess I had to undo and redo it. So I think this one is kind of worth our time here. Let's do this. Let's get that to come over here. Get you to come over here, and let's just start by, just open it up. Let's start by doing a little crawling. So I'm gonna do a manual crawl through here. We'll just see what we can find. Go ahead and do a search. Interesting that this actually has some responses there. A lot of different places that it's being reflected. Let's see. I'm betting this is going to use some type of front end. Sitecore is a CMS. Okay. Okay, so that's how they're doing that. Good grief! Look at all these JavaScript libraries. I'm not seeing. Okay, so your framework is Backbone. Does Backbone have rendering in it? Backbone does not have a native virtual DOM, so it should not have the same type of protections against client-side injection attacks that like a React or an Angular would have. I don't know much about it. I've never used Backbone, but excuse me, but it's sounding like that may be in play. T-Set guy said, when you're choosing your target, what kind of keywords in subdomains make you seem like, interesting? Dev, staging, anything that tells me that it's not production, I can still get access to it is interesting. Anything that says admin, something that makes me think that I shouldn't be able to access it, maybe I would access it. If it's a specific, kind of lets me know there may be a specific functionality in there. I'm trying to think of a good example. I can't think of one off the top of my head, but if it was like uploads dot cloudfm.com or something like that, to where I think it's that it may be an opportunity for server-side injections or manipulating that type of stuff. One of the ones I always pay attention to is origin. There's let me see if I can find any information on this, but I don't know if it's actually, it's going to talk about something different. So there's a naming scheme that there, I guess let's just boil it. We don't need to get into the whole backstory. If you see origin, dot whatever, origin / whatever, anything, a lot of times that's used in conjunction with a WAF, and it should be protected. And if it's not protected, it'll be the same instance of the website or web application, but it will not be protected with the WAF. That's not always the case, but there's sometimes when you can find that. So that's definitely something. TSEC guy, that's definitely something that I see that's interesting. All right, so once again, I feel like client-side injections are in play here. Let's come and we'll click on a few more. Again, I'm not gonna bother creating an account for this one. Let me just see if I can, forget it. Let's find out whether or not this is a good one. Because eventually here in a minute, I wanna go over to the one that I've already vetted and I already know is worth our time. So, but that's in a URL scope target, whereas this is in a wildcard scope target. Oh, and it's got some client-side validation, I guess, to do this. So let's see if they have, is it just client-side validation or is it server-side validation as well? Let's, that is obviously not a real email address that I have, but I'm gonna just use the intercept. Now, intercept is gonna get angry at me with my framework here. So let me just close out of that for a minute because it's sending a bunch of different beacons. I need to switch those over to WebSockets. That's a whole other conversation. Intercept this. Oh, or maybe, hold on. Maybe it's not the We Are Hacker 1 that doesn't like. Maybe it's the +1 notation? Really? Okay, well still, so, because a plus notation is usually fine. Okay, so we send this over here. We got that. That's interesting. So let's just see real quick. I'm gonna add a +1 here and we'll find out, right? So they have a client-side validation. They have a validation on the client side to check and see whether or not the email that I've entered in here has the +1. If it does, JavaScript recognizes that. In fact, it looks like it does it immediately from a plus. Yep, which tells me that they're probably doing some type of regex check on it just constantly every time there's a change of state within this this point here. So, but the question is, let's just send this over here to the repeater for right now and see what happens. Doesn't seem like it cares about sending the plus notation to the server side. So what you would expect to see is that the server side also checks to see if it has this plus notation. And if it does not, then it will, sorry, I'm just realizing we could also do username enumeration with this. It should check it to see if it has plus notation. It should return some type of an error or anything. Now, maybe it's just doing that quietly and, but it certainly doesn't seem like it. We would need a valid user or anything to see. This is, thank you so much. Thank you for the follow. This is a bad pattern. This is a bad pattern for a lot of reasons. First of all, like I said, it doesn't look like we have any server-side validation. Second of all, it should not be, this is a ton of information. So it's like, it's telling us, does the client exist, does the user exist, and was an email actually sent? So this is a huge amount of information for us as an attacker to be able to find out, like, yeah, I mean, obviously if the user exists, but can we get an email to send? If we're testing this, I would test this for different types of injections, not to try and get like a server-side injection. And look, one of the things you got to remember too, most applications now are not running on some like static monolith server. No, I would not report this type of thing, fix it. This is what I would call a pointer, or essentially a pointer. Yeah, I call them pointers. Some people call them signals and everything, but it's, yeah, this is telling me that this application is worth our time and there may be something here. But no, for the most part, username enumeration, You know, if we can validate, if we can confirm 100% that that it's not validating that +1 on the server side, that may be something, because there's a low impact vulnerability that I've gotten before, more on Snack that I have on HackerOne, but there's a low impact vulnerability where you just say like lack of proper validation, and then that's where you see it on the client side, but not on the server side. But this one right here, like we're not creating an account, so we would have to find something to like find a valid account or anything and get it to use. Um, Very interesting. Sorry, I want to catch up on the chat here. Yeah, just a lead. Fix it. Exactly. Yeah, it's a lead's another great way to put it, right? It's like with bug bounty hunting for the company and for the researcher, the hunter. Remember, I use those interchangeably. For the bug bounty hunter and for the company, bug bounties are all about return on investment. And you can create that win-win scenario, right? It's not like one person wins and the other person loses. That's the great thing about bug bounties, is that you can create a win-win scenario for both parties. For the company, they want the highest quality reports that are coming in. They don't want to waste their time on reports and on researchers that are just trying to get money and aren't actually giving them valuable information. So there's steps that they can take on their end, and this is what I had to do when I was running my public program on HackerOne through Flowcast. There are a lot of steps that you can take to minimize those what we call beg bounties, you know, as opposed to bug bounties. They're like, I showed you all this information, please, please, please give me money, or trying to scare you into something, and you know, they'll report this and say it's a remote code execution, that type of stuff. So, but for the researcher, it's the same thing. The researcher is constantly trying to make sure that what they're testing actually might have some vulnerabilities in there. And so the big difference that you see between a very experienced and skilled bug bounty hunter and somebody who's not so experienced, even if they have the same basic knowledge of penetration testing, they know all the same attacks, this experienced individual, they're going to be able to look at stuff and say, oh no, I've seen that before and it kind of led to this, or I've run into this and I spent 2 days testing it and it ended up not being anything. So, right, that experience is what they use to make sure that they're not wasting their time on these applications, that there isn't something there, even though it may feel that way. So that's, as you grow in your career as a bug bounty hunter, that's the skill that you're really focusing on building. Obviously the attacks and everything are good, but anybody can learn that. And honestly, now with ChatGPT, like you can honestly, if you're first starting out, if you buy the ChatGPT for $20 a day, right? You or $20 a month, sorry, $20 a day would be ridiculous. $20 a month, you can sit there with it and feed it in requests and responses and talk through it and everything, and start to really easily learn the vulnerabilities, and it'll kind of help you identify and stuff. Like the AI is definitely bridging the gap with that. What it cannot help with whatsoever is making sure that you're investing your time appropriately. That's why I always have these like return on investment scores and everything in the tools that I build, is because I'm always focusing on that. I'm always focusing on, like, if I'm spending my time doing bug bounties, first of all, I need to make sure there's a learning component to it. You know, I need to be doing something that's like I'm not as familiar with, so I'll grow and learn with that and I can take it to the places. But let me make sure that when I'm actually testing, there's a much higher chance that I'm going to find something. So yeah, that's essentially the thing there. I'm just getting caught up on the chat again. Decrypt said, I reported one close to this. I was able to enumerate all users, admins, etc., and see which user created other users, all the roles, etc. Put a mapping into a PDF to show the hierarchy. Company said they didn't care. So yeah, and look, some companies would. It all depends. And so another part of being a bug bounty hunter is building up that relationship with the company, right? So I have, and I'm going to talk more about this in videos that are coming up very soon, but so over time, you're going to build out several different strategies that you can use. And, you know, one strategy, I'll go through a couple of like my main ones, but one strategy would be basically pretending that you have been hired by the company, and it's going to be a very large company. So like the one I'm focused on right now is Grammarly. That's why in a lot of videos you see I'm showing Grammarly, because that's the main one that I'm focused on. And I will test it for, I mean, at least a year, right? I learn everything about it, everything about their security controls, that type of stuff. So as part of that, because I'm digging into this and I know I'm going to be testing, I've been in communication with their security team. You know, I've sent them a couple emails, just like let them know, say like, hey, here's who I am. Here's my experience and everything. This is what I'm going to be testing. Like, I might ask them, different questions and everything. So you build up a relationship and you start to realize which companies are good to work with as a researcher and which ones are not. And you obviously spend more time in the ones that are good. So if what happened to Decrypt there, we said like he sent all that, did all that work, and the company didn't care, didn't give him anything for it. That would be a deal breaker for me, where I would say, well, then I'm going to go focus my time on somewhere else. Because again, just like I was saying, it all goes back to return on investment. Is ChatGPT good compared to Gemini, DeepSeek? I mean, they're all fine. At this point, any one of them is going to be able to help you with bug bounties. You're going to be splitting hairs. I've used ChatGPT for a while. I think it's fine. Gemini's, great too. I would focus more on cost savings. DeepSeek, I haven't messed with too much, not for any reason. I just haven't played with it too much. I did ChatGPT pretty early. I've been paying the $20 a month and kind of been locked into that. So, all right, let's go back to this. So that one's a very, very interesting thing there. But it doesn't look like we're going to be able to log in, which is a shame. Now, maybe we can do it somewhere else. Oh, that's right. This takes us to another domain over there. So, all right. Been going for an hour and 45 minutes. So I think, and especially the fact that we can't log into this, I want to dig into the one that I know we can log into. So let's get our local host back up here. And I'm just realizing my proxy is still on. Put back up here. And we are going to focus on this URL right here. So I've been doing a lot of research over the past, I guess probably like 2 weeks or something, give or take, on and off, trying to find really, really good targets for, it's a VDP, a vulnerability disclosure program that has full authentication, that has a huge attack surface, basically the ones that I think for the community will be the best place to get your first bug. And in my opinion, it's either any one of those subdomains there. And remember, we got 700 live servers on our Cloud FM over here. So any of the ones here that we've looked at, I think there's been a couple that we've seen that I would certainly recommend based on the way I've reacted. But then also this one here, because again, it just has everything that we're looking for, everything that we need. So let's get this brought up. I'm already logged in, you can see. So here, I can kind of just log out to show, but creating an account is very simple. Now you do have to have a phone number, which is the only thing, and you can do it. There's some OAuth implementations as well. So yeah, so anyway, you can go in, you can register for accounts. I haven't tried to do another one yet, right? But you can get those services that just give you a different phone number. No, because you don't have to validate the phone number at all. I forgot about that. Yeah, I just went, I don't know if it'll let me do that silly, but yeah, it doesn't even matter. The phone number, there's no phone number validation. I just remembered that. No phone number validation, anything here. So you can come in and we'll just create a new, and our email address will be +2 now. Password, yeah, I always do the same thing there. If anybody doesn't realize, that's kind of going down the keyboard 4 different ways. So you go down without shift, hold shift and go down 4, down without shift, hold shift 4. I'm not going to tell you where I first learned this password because it is not great for the military. Let's just say that. Think that outs it, but whatever. So there you go. Very easy, right? Phone number doesn't matter. You don't have to do any validating. You can go and create a thing. So super easy to, yes, yeah. I joined the Army when there was no, what's called an MOS, a military occupational specialty, for cybersecurity. And so that was, essentially you came in like me as a 25 Bravo, an information technology specialist. And then if you do well enough, in certain areas, they'll take you to go take the Security Plus, and if you pass the Security Plus, you were basically the cybersecurity guy, and that was what happened to me. And then you get to see some of the things that you see, and it's like, oh my gosh. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Oh, glad to be out. Although actually no, I love the military. I had a good time. I was medically retired and I fought the med board, but is what it is. Still got half of my left hand that works, and that's all I need. Just want to make sure I'm not missing anything in the chat there. So, all right. So anyway, like I said, I think this is going to be a phenomenal play. So this has a huge attack surface as well. Let's come over here and I'll get this added in. Now it's certainly been tested more. And actually, let's see. Yeah, so 76 reports have been submitted in here. It's only 7% there. I think a lot of them were going to that Royal Canin one over there. But let's get this added to the scope. Don't need the protocol. We want to make sure we get that subdomain in there as well. I don't know if I'm going to have to undo it. Hold on. Gonna have to do this again. I'm telling you, the sitemap filtering has been, it's still not coming up here. Why is that? Is it going through the proxy? What did I do? Somebody in chat, let me know if you see what's going on here. Should be going through. Is it? Just maybe do that. Maybe this will grab it there. What in the world is going on here? I'm gonna start a new thing here in a second if it keeps doing this. Yeah, no, I've got the, I mean, it should be getting a 200 response. I'm not seeing it in the proxy at all. And it certainly should be in the proxy. This has been happening to me though. Hold on, let's just like, try just clicking through a few other ones here. What about now? I saw something get added. No? What in the world is going on here? Oh yeah, Foxy Proxy is enabled and everything too. I think Burp is just hiccuping. Something with the proxy filtering and everything. That's totally fine. Hold on, let me just come over here. Can I use the framework in a separate browser like Brave? I can, yeah, but I typically prefer to just have it in the same thing so it's really easy to open up. Because what I do is, you know, going back over to where I was doing the Recon. So, you know, I'll come over here and then like, oh, I want to test this, and I just click that there, and it automatically goes over and populates in Burp. So that's why I typically do that. Give me 1 second because that's all saved anyway. I'm just going to do a new Burp project real quick here, and I don't know, something got messed up. I'm sure I'll figure it out right afterwards. I'm sure people will be watching later and, you know, yelling at me for doing something stupid. Wouldn't be the first time, won't be the last. Well, I'm getting this started here. Thank you for the questions. Good time. I assume it's a question. I'm not really sure if AI is reliable in this type of hunting. In case of I think a CFT, but maybe a CTF, they might give you the correct answer, but because they've ingested data where somebody has written a blog on it, when instead you find an interesting case, they will hallucinate or just hit the security. Yeah. No, you're 100%. You're 100% right. It's you have to take what I've seen, and the problem that I've not run into, but kind of just been frustrated by. ChatGPT thinks everything's a vulnerability. That's what I've had to run into. Is like I'm always having to tamper it down. It's like I'll send it something and I'll be like, hey, you know, do you think this is something? It's like, oh, well, yeah, if you do this and then it does this and this and then it'll be something. And it's like, you know, you've got to get, you essentially at the end, you have to already have a foothold in their cloud environment and have set up a man in the middle in order to do it. It's like, yeah, this is a super critical vulnerability. And it's like, no, ChatGPT, it's not. So yeah, definitely take everything it says with a grain of salt. You know, you always have to, if you're submitting a report and you don't have a proof of concept that shows how you can steal customer data or get access to some type of mechanism or infrastructure that you shouldn't have access to, for me, I don't report it. I know some people do. I will wait. Like, even if I get a cross-site scripting where I can get an alert, I just sit on that and I'm like, okay, let me find a CORS vulnerability, or let me find a CSRF vulnerability as well, and combine this in there and find a way to get an account takeover. One of my members only videos shows exactly how I do this, by the way. I actually work backwards. I find the account takeover possibility first, and then find out where I have to get my cross-site scripting and everything else. But yeah, oh yeah, Hacker AI has been another pretty good one. They've got that one dialed in there a little bit better. Okay, so let's go ahead and try this again. Move this over here. Hopefully Burp's going to play nice with me now. Again, somebody in the comments is going to tear me apart for something I did, I'm sure. It's has definitely happened before. But okay, so we got this. Ooh, and we have a ton of stuff. Does anybody know what a PML? That's not a very common thing there. Well, that's not it. D-Day 52 says, I was in bug bounty for almost 1.5 years with no luck. Do you think it's because too many more experienced hackers or my low-key knowledge? So I don't think it's either one of those. Like it's a little bit of a component of all of that, right? But typically when people are when people are testing for like 1.5 years for like an extended period of time and they don't find their first bug, typically what I see is you're doing the same thing that everyone else is. You're doing a lot of scanning, you're doing a lot of injection testing, you're doing a lot of stuff that's just already so saturated. I wouldn't even say like it's not a lot of experienced people necessarily, but it's just the sheer volume of people that are doing the same number of testing that a lot of that's already been covered. And a lot of people, when they come into bug bounties, they think of bug bounties as hacking. And they think of hacking as injection testing. You know, they want to be able to do some cool, sexy payload that they can, you know, do a write-up about. And like they figured this whole thing out. And you just end up hitting walls left and right. So if you pivot over to the types of vulnerabilities that take a lot of manual testing, that are tedious, that people don't necessarily want to do for an extended period of time, I always recommend IDORs and access controls. If you haven't seen my YouTube channel, I have a whole video series on that, 3 different videos. I think altogether it's about 10 hours showing how I do all that. It goes through IDORs, goes through access controls, and a 3rd video puts it into a cohesive methodology. I definitely recommend that. I mean, I talk to so many people. I've been doing this for years now, doing my YouTube videos and kind of helping people start their bug bounty journey. And almost always when people are stuck and say they can't find their first bug, we go and start talking about it. And it's like, okay, what are you doing? It's like, well, I go and I do my enumeration and then I run, burp scan on it and I find this. And then I, go and like looking for like cross-site scripting and this and that. It's just so many people do that because they think that's like the path. IDORs and access controls, take one more complex, I mentioned this earlier, take one more complex thing like, or type of bug like web cache poisoning or request smuggling, or although request smuggling, honestly, James Kettle has it so automated at this point, but OAuth, like we talked about before, business logic, right? Start doing research on like, and when I say research, I mean, look at valid bug bounty reports for, things where they've been able to circumvent, some type of payment system or manipulate the way an authentication works, send in a different, fees. Like start kind of learning those and then putting those, in your back pocket and testing the same things out when you see it. That can help. But yeah, again, you tell me, D-Day 52 if I'm wrong, but typically when people say that, they're doing a lot of scanning and automated tools. They're doing a lot of injection type testing. They're not taking a lot of notes. They're jumping around from different programs, right? So I always say stick with one program for a year. Make sure it's a big one where it's going to change a lot. I always have like Shopify, Grammarly are all examples of ones you can do public programs. And yeah, just learn everything about it and try stuff. Ultimately, you have to be creative and try stuff that people aren't doing. That was right. Yeah. See, so yeah, I mean, I've talked to probably thousands of people up until this point, and it's very common, right? People feel that, and that's just part of it. Once you get one or two, like the other problem is you get in your head, and then once you get one or two bugs and you see that you can do it, then your confidence builds. So when you don't have that confidence, you test for a little bit, and then your mind starts to say like, no, there's nothing here, or everybody's already taken it, or I don't have enough knowledge. You talk yourself out of it, and then you just walk away. Like most complex bugs that I submit, it takes me days to even figure anything out or find something. Like it takes me days to figure out a general mechanism or anything. Thank you very much for the follow. Yeah. Okay. All right. So this PML file is a physical markup language for web applications. I don't think I've messed with this too much. I don't know if somebody wants to do a little research into PML. I don't know how that would impact. Let me just try PML. What language? I mean, is it just it's its own language, or what? What tech stack? How about that? So this is its own thing. I haven't run into this. I don't know if this is new, if it's rare, if I just haven't been exposed to it. Super interesting. Again, I don't know how that impacts it, but I definitely am not as familiar with this as like Express, where I can basically tell you what the application is going to do. Fix it. Yeah, said yeah, policy. Huh. Yeah, T-Sec. I bet y'all are picking up the follower thing. I've had those same sounds on there. It's like the first ones that I picked out when I made this thing here. So, all right. Anyway, so I'll do a little bit of my own research on the PML. I don't know how that impacts it, but let's come back over here. Now, I want to start looking at this new section that we have. So for anybody who doesn't know, this is my bug bounty hunting framework, and I am getting very close to be able to release the next iteration of the beta release here. And not one of the main things, but a big part of that is going to be where I've started to build out this URL function here. And the first step that we have in the URL workflow, the first thing that you're going to do before you go down and run these tools is I have built out this whole manual recon section. And we have 4 different pieces with that. So we start out with high-level questions. And this workflow is meant to recreate what I do when I'm transitioning from, I just had a good idea too about, anyway, I'll put that in the back of mind. When I'm transitioning from Recon to actually going in and doing my testing. Now you're gonna do enumeration, you wanna come find these, but the first thing you wanna do is go through the application and learn and understand it as much as possible. So I've actually built that into my framework here. Typically what I would do is have VS Code over here and I would jump back and forth. But with this new release of my framework that's gonna come out here within the next week or so, you won't have to do that anymore. And it's got all these different questions built out. So these are, I'm still kind of working on everything. These questions might change a little bit, definitely have some more added into it, but I've tried to get the core pieces here, right? So we can start out and answer, like, what is the primary function of the application? Because in order to understand how we can potentially exploit this, we have to know what the application is, who the primary users and everything are as well. So let me get this brought back up here so it'll be a little easier. We'll click back down. So what do we think, guys? You can kind of help me out in the chat as well. So yeah, D-Day52 said, after so much time, I just don't know how to continue or know. Again, that goes back to what I was saying about being a bug bounty hunter is all about understanding the return on investment. That's a muscle that you have to develop over time, and it just takes cycles. It just takes iteration. Everybody feels that way. Everybody. I still feel that way today. I'm sure Naham Sek and Jason Haddix feel that way every once in a while too. Yeah, it's just, it becomes hopefully a skill where you can kind of anticipate a little bit. All right, so what is this website? Let's, we keep talking about all the technology and everything, but What? Oh, yeah. Decrypt. Also, never give up. Keep trying different things, and also go back to enumeration. Always go back to enumeration. Keep trying to like gather some more if you can't find it. But so this to me looks like something that's similar to Chewy. Tell me if I'm wrong. And maybe this, because it says your veterinary practice, maybe this is only for veterinarians, which would tell me that you're buying in, well, no. I was thinking you would buy in bulk. Oh, it's like a little version of Tech. But this looks like just a regular, looks more like just like a regular Chewy type of thing. We've got all types of different products here. Yeah, you can just buy. Okay, so let's come back over here. So it's an online shop where, and we need to be really explicit here, where people, so not veterinary clinics or anything like that, because that means our target. You're always wondering who your victim's going to be. Our victim is going to be individual users, individual people. So where people can purchase and order food, medicine, toys, etc. So we'll go ahead and save that. We can come in. You can add as many different answers in here if you need. That'd be good. So now, is it customer facing, enterprise facing, internal, or partner facing? Again, we were able to get to it just fine. Now we just said that our target is going to be people, individual users. So we know that this is going to be customer facing. Is it a single product or part of a larger platform? Now, to me, this looks like a single product. We can click on a few things here, come over to the profile. We've got some opportunities to store some stuff. Always want to check real quick to see if the change password mechanism requires the current password. If it does not, then if you can get a cross-site scripting and a CSRF together on this form, you're going to be able to take over an account. So that's good. Payment. As I'm going through this, I'm always looking for targets that we can get, right? This thing here as well, if they've already added a payment method, that can be a target for something that we could try and exfiltrate there. I'm seeing some stuff in the chat, which is fantastic. Somebody let me know if I'm missing anything, but it sounds like y'all are kind of talking about some other stuff there, which is phenomenal. Okay, so going back over here, I think it's a single product. Single product or application. It doesn't seem to be integrated with a larger platform. I don't see anything out here that redirects and stuff, so I'm pretty confident on that. Are there multiple subdomains serving different functions? I don't think so. This appears to be a monolith. Yeah, and I'm not, everything is staying on our domain here. It would also, you can typically assume is the wrong word, but you can make an educated guess that you're going to have a monolith if you have a URL as opposed to a wildcard scope target. That is not always the case, but yeah, it's something that you can, I don't know, you can at least make an educated. I'm trying to avoid using the word assume or anything else, but yeah, single domain right there, that'll be good. And okay, are there multiple environments that are publicly accessible? I don't think so. If there are, they wouldn't be in scope. We probably would have seen them already. Now we can go ahead and just test, like, just out of curiosity. They wouldn't be in scope, but you can do things like dev dot outreach. Well, I mean, does any subdomain redirect over there? What about if we just do secure? Maybe we're looking at that. Redirects over to it. I don't know. I don't think so. Not that are in scope. I'm just going to put that. I need to make it so that enter will submit that. Although no, I don't know. Is the application region specific or global? I have no reason to believe that this application is region specific. So I'll go ahead and put it on as global there. Are there any mobile apps, desktop apps, or browser extensions associated with it? The answer to this one, I'm going to go ahead and assume, for the sake of time, is no. However, if you were testing on Grammarly, the answer to that would be yes. And now, what does that mean for us? I've talked about this in a lot of recent videos, right? That's complexity, especially with your authentication. I love, 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 love testing on targets that have authentication through mobile apps, and they have, you know, Android and iOS, and then they have desktop applications. And if you've done Grammarly, if you've done anything with it, the desktop application really seems to have the main authentication system. You know, so once you're logged into the desktop, it'll leverage that through a separate OAuth. There's some funky stuff. I want to watch what I say. There's some funky stuff that happens with the desktop application and the browser extensions, especially. If you see that a desktop application and a browser extension shares an authentication, I mean, it's just so tough to do. Anytime you're always looking for complexity, the more complexity, especially within that authentication, the greater likelihood that they're going to make a mistake, right? Because it's just not possible to, it's just like a house of cards almost that gets taken up together. Oh, I'm so glad that y'all enjoy the framework. Said Arson's framework made finding subdomains easy for me. Still looking for your first valid bug. Yeah, you'll get that. Like I said, as all the advice that we've been talking about, Greg, like, you know, keep stick on the same program for a long time. Don't jump around. Keep going back to like testing different things. Don't do injection attacks when you're first starting, right? Do the ones that are more manual, all that. You'll get there. You'll get that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Is this your card? And then you get OAuth, you know, vulnerability. Is it a full product? Thin UI. It looks like a full product. /app. That'll be fine right there. Does it expose documentation? Not that I've found. That would typically be like if there was Swagger documentation or, you know, something. Yeah. Do they clearly document how to use this, and is that public? And then finally, is the application intended to be embedded? No, not that I know of. It's just a store that you would go through and use. So, okay, so that's a good example, right? We come down here to the, well, we'll do a little bit more with the technology stack as well. What front-end framework is used? That was where we went and saw earlier. Oh, no, never mind. I'm getting my wires crossed. This is Mustache, which I've seen a few times. I also don't think that Mustache has a virtual DOM. Mustache does not have a virtual DOM as well. It's a simple logicless templating. Oh, it's templating. So we have client-side templating within here. Okay, so that's really good to know. And again, this is why we're going to go through and get these questions, because now we're starting to build up a picture in our head of what could be possible. So it uses mustache.js, and because of that, we know client-side templating is in play, no virtual DOM. So client-side injections like XSS and client-side prototype pollution are also in play. Although client-side prototype pollution will be, I'll just do, you know, a better way to put it. That's probably better, because DOM-based XSS and client-side prototype pollution are always in play, even if they use a virtual DOM. Reflected and stored is going to be much more difficult. Is this a single-page application? I'm almost certain it's not. And if everybody doesn't know, what is a single-page application? A true single-page application, no, the endpoint doesn't change, essentially. By the way, this is just weird. Look at this. They've got a delimiter in this, a pipe in a single thing. So that's telling me maybe we can do something with that. But anyway, single-page application is you load the page in, you load it on, and it's a very simple initial response. And it's a page where it'll say you have to have JavaScript enabled, which of course everybody would anyway. But and then JavaScript is used to do everything. So in fact, you know what? My framework, this is a true single page application. JavaScript is used to change everything on here. There are no different endpoints on this application, right? If I come over and start switching around to different things, you never go to a different endpoint. I didn't even think about this. It's a good example. My framework is a true single page application. Typically what you're going to see is a hybrid of a single page application when you're in there, because it's really like, if it's a big platform, you're not going to be able, there's going to be some other use cases that you need to do. You'll probably have a lot of subdomains and everything, but yeah, ultimately with a single page application, it's very JavaScript heavy. It's going to rely on a lot of what are called AJAX calls, on JavaScript calls coming from the client side to go do everything. With single page applications, it can be very difficult to, what am I trying to say? To store things like cookies and sensitive data. Like everything's got to come from the client side. It doesn't come from the server side. So you've got to figure out how do you store that securely, or have the client retrieve those values securely from different places, and not make it possible for an attacker to just go to town if they get a client side injection. That's why like React is usually a single page application. And a lot of times, you know, I mean, typically when you see true single page applications, they also are running a virtual DOM, because a cross-site scripting can be so devastating there. So I don't think this is a single page application. Definitely a lot of different endpoints, but a really good way to test is, and you can usually just go to the main page here. Let's actually do that. Just go to the main page. Again, you would typically not see, if you saw any route, you would not see a file extension if it was a single page application. But you can also just go to view page source and then see what they have here. Now this is, wow, it's taken so long to load. It's actually, good grief. So yeah, not a single page application in any way, shape, or form. Look at all that custom JavaScript. Oh, I'm feeling DOM-based cross-site scripting. Oh, I love inline scripts. Look at that. And these are custom built too. It's just scripts.js, ajax.js, I think. Well, no, we got a caption. This might be involved with the caption. I don't know, but I love inline scripts. So if you were to see a single page application, in fact, I'll tell you what I could show. This was my old company, and where I built the public program on HackerOne for this, my team and I did. So if you come here and you do view page source, it's almost nothing. All it does is like load the JavaScript in there. See, load your JavaScript pages. This is a single page application. This is what you would expect to see if you're looking at a single page application. Okay, go away from that. So back here, not a spa. Trying to think if there's anything else, but I don't think we need to do anything else there. Is server-side rendering being used? And by the way, I'm still kind of building this out, but I'm going to have a lot of instructions about like how you can start to do it. But yeah, this is typically things like Next.js is the one that I typically see for server-side there. I'll just put I don't think so for right now. And then what backend languages are implied? Well, we already know that the PML language is there. Do we? That it? I don't, hey, this is just confusing the heck out of me. Because this one says physical markup, proof markup language. There's all these different things for it. Okay, I'm just gonna write PML and we'll kind of find it right there. I want to make sure I don't miss anything in the chat there. Mazak13, he said, hey, Arson, glad I found you. Got my foot around your framework. Excited to get my first bounty. Thank you. Yeah, here to support, doing it full time. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate that. Yeah, it's been, gosh, like the night before I put that video out, the one that was like, hey, I'm going full time. Can you help me with that? I didn't sleep at all. I woke up at like 3 a.m. right when it was going out. I knew it was going out. I was just kind of sitting there, and like I was so terrified that like I was just going to be like radio silence. I'm like, oh my gosh. And it like, I refreshed the page a couple more times, and like immediately I had 3 members. And I was literally like playing music and dancing around my kitchen. So if you were one of my first 3 members, like right after that one came out, know that like I immediately just breathed like a sigh of relief. Like, okay, all right, that's that. I'm over that hump. That's good. So thank you everybody who is supporting. Actually, I want to mention this too, because I'm super excited about it. One of the goals that I had in my mind was getting to 100 members. Kind of thought it'd take like a month or 2. I just hit 100 members already this morning on YouTube. So everybody who was signed up for it, thank you so much. I truly can't thank you enough, but I'm going to do my best to show it through actions by getting a lot of really good content on there. There's already 3 members only videos that I've been able to create. I want to get that number up to 20 as quickly as possible. So I'm just going to be, really hustling over the next couple months to get as much content out to y'all that are supporting me as possible. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I really do. All right, yeah, like I said, let me know if I missed anything there from the chat. but we'll kind of run through a few more here. And then I want to go to the other pieces. Is the backend REST, GraphQL, or mixed? It's definitely not GraphQL. I'm not even really seeing a REST. How do we do, let's come and take a look. Where's our post request? Let's come over here. Here's all of our post requests. And now you got a DWR thing. This is a whole new tech stack that I haven't played with. And look at this, totally different body format than what I would expect. So I don't know if you would call this a REST or what. I'm sure this is some Windows stuff, because it's anytime I see a bunch of things that I don't recognize, it's always a Windows thing. Mr. Planet 28, thank you so much, man. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it. All right, I don't know what this is, but I'm definitely not seeing an API. Well, right as I say that, I see API too. And literally REST. Okay, so there's some REST and along with this other thing there. So I think it's just a mixed. Some REST. Seems like the other ones are just like a basic form submission. Decrypt, you said XCong, so a reverse proxy. Was that in one of the headers there? I missed that. Oh, yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, they must have this going to a reverse proxy. It's another XMule session as well there. Oh! I know this. Where do I know? Is that Java serialization? That's Java, right? That's I've seen that. That's like back in my OSWE days right there. Oh, wrong way. Hold on. I bet we'll get some responses. Yes. Base 64 encoding of a Java serialized object. Man, I can't believe I remembered that. Okay, so that's telling us a lot. That's telling us a lot. So then, yeah, that's fine right there. I don't remember if I have any questions about the bagging stuff right there, but all right, so this would be an opportunity to test for Java deserialization. Decrypt, I might be able to decode it, but I would need to go off and there'd be a little bit of setup, I think. I mean, well, I guess you can just drop it as base 64. Is that what you mean? Like, is it just plain text there? Because it should be, oh, there is some data in there. So 100% Java, org, mule, session. Yeah, this is giving us more information than I thought. Case insensitive hash map. Interesting. But this 100% tells us, so the backend, at least at this part, is using Java. And again, this would be an opportunity to test for Java deserialization, which, yeah, common collection. Yeah, Decrypt. That's what I was just thinking. Like, what is it? Is common collection the one for Java? I always get them mixed up. Which one's Why So Serial? I feel like that's, no, Why So Serial is Java, right? Oh, there's a burp extension that can do this too? Yeah, no, this is Java. Yeah, there's all your common collections and everything too, so interesting. Okay, so yeah, we have found a target. I don't see this very often at all. I am definitely going to test this myself later. This is fun. For anybody who doesn't know, and there can be, by the way, well, it's kind of old now, but John Hammond had a great video about how to get this set up. Oh, so Decrypt, you said there's a burp extension that uses Why So Serial in the back end? Because what I would typically do is I would go through and write a script to generate what each one of these does is it generates a deserialization payload, and then I would load them up in like a word list and run it there. Let's decrypt. You said there's one in the extensions. Is it just called YSO serial as well, or does it have like a different name? Java deserialization scanner. Yeah, I mean, this is good. It has some of them, but you'd be missing, especially a lot of the commons collections there. Now, what are, because we hold on. This is turning from a educational stream. Now I'm actually want to start digging into it. Do we see any known library names? I don't know this org mule. Here we go. Oh, for MuleSoft. Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah, Decrypt, let me know if you can find that one or if it was the one that I was looking at there. But okay, so we now know that the backend, at least at these, see, I don't think it's the same thing for these though. We're still on the Kong server, so we're still using that same reverse proxy. Yeah, take your time, Decrypt, take your time, man. I think this may just be for the API. And by the way, we got API 2. Do we have API 1? Like, let me look at that too. So we've got data stored in the path there, I'm sure. Where is this being used also? Because for a deserialization vulnerability, we would have to have it'd have to be in the request. I don't see it going into the request there. Unless they're breaking it apart and using it once we get back. Interesting. But I want to know, what happens if I just change this to API? Unauthorized. Now, is anything unauthorized? No, that's not found. Okay, so we have, if you just do API instead of API 2, it looks like there's an older version of it that is behind a 401. So if you can find a way to bypass this somehow, then you could possibly get access to some older functionality. Nelson, you said, is it in the burp store and does it do YSO serial service? Yeah, that's what we were just looking at here. So it must be this one right here. Yeah, it does some. It doesn't do all of them. Now these may be like, you know, some of the more common and everything, but yeah. So I would still probably use YSO serial to do that. Filter for the token, yes, that's what I was just thinking here. Just saying. I'll just filter for the, this is what I used to do. I think you need the B as well. Let's see. Nowhere in the request. Nope, so we're not seeing it come into a request. So it must be deconstructing this on the client side, but then does that mean the encryption key would have to be stored on the client side? I don't understand this. This is a very interesting implementation. Nolson, yeah, you said you thought there was a deserialization for .NET as well. There is. What's the name of that one? Because the PHP one has a different name. I think the one for .NET is like deserialization.net or something. Yeah, ysoserial.net. And then the one for PHP is completely different. Misspelled that, but should be okay. Yep. Fix it for me. There it is. PHP GGC. So you got YSO serial for Java, ysoserial.net for .NET, and PHP GGC for for PHP ones. Yeah, if you could, yeah, I mean, some of your data. So Decrypt said, weird, it's an auth token, but if you can modify the response, can you get RCE, remote code execution on the client? So the only way that I'm thinking is that, I mean, this stuff must be used somehow to generate what's in here. So the question is, because what a deserialization vulnerability is fundamentally is when a serialized, so what serial, I probably got to start with this. A serialized object is, we have a data, like a JSON object, let's just say, is probably the easiest way to do it. And we serialize it, meaning we kind of condense it down to a smaller way. And there's different algorithms, things to do that. Then it's sent over HTTP or sent over some type of communication system. And when it's received, it's deserialized. So we reverse that process in order to see what the original object looks like. When that deserialization process happens, there are some methods that are called magic methods, or at least that's kind of a nomenclature there, but they typically have an underscore to start with. So in Python, like underscore reduce is one of the famous ones. I don't remember off the top. Usually destroy is in PHP. I think it's no, I don't remember. So PHP and Java has been much longer for me. But anyway, the point is, that's where the vulnerability occurs. Is you send typically a serialized object to the server side. The server side then takes it and deserializes that object. And if you're able to implant one of these magic methods, those magic methods, all the code in that method executes immediately no matter what. So your goal as an attacker is to embed a magic method that has malicious code that will execute, and then when it's deserialized. So we would need to find a way to, typically you would need to find a way to send a serialized object to the server side, so something like this, and then it would deconstruct it, and then we can create a poison one. This is coming from the response. It's possible that what they're doing is taking data from here and then like building a serialized object. It's just strange. I don't typically see it just coming from the response there. They said, I'd ask Hacker AI to write me a Python script to test all the YSO serial and cover all of them, because you'll have to use YSO serial to do encoding, et cetera. And yeah. So yeah, I would definitely recommend scripting it out to do it. It's weird. Typically, you don't see the serialized objects coming back in a response, at least not, like I would expect this to be stored as like a cookie or something, be stored, this whole thing would be stored somewhere on the client side. And maybe it is, hold on. Maybe it's being stored in like it's just not being sent in the request. Let's figure this out. Let's come over here to the storage. Do we see, I don't see anything here. What about local storage? I don't know why PayPal's thing is there. Session storage. Oh, whoa. Well, that's weird. They've got a ton of HTML with templates, with templating that's put in here. So are they, man, I really feel like there's some cross-site scripting possibility here. Like this is a weird pattern. Yeah, Decrypt said the same thing. Yeah, exactly. Can you do cross-site scripting there? It's weird. I don't know why they would be storing this in this way. And not just cross-site scripting, but client-side template injection as well. So my mind is going down both of those. Very strange. No, son, yeah, is the video on demand going to be available later to view? Yes, so it'll be available to view. I'm going to take this and it'll be on YouTube as well. At the latest, it'll be on YouTube tomorrow morning. I'm hoping to get it on there, shortly after this. It just depends on how much time it takes. Yeah, of course. Yeah, no, happy to. No, again, I'm supposedly live streaming on YouTube as well. So it would just be available, but it shows me. I mean, I think you can kind of see my screen right here. it shows me that it's live streaming. I can see all that. I can see my screen, but for some reason other people can't. Nobody is joining there. So I don't know why that is. I'll have to get it fine. Oh, thank you so much for the subscription, man. I really appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah. There goes the sound. Turn that down a little more. But thank you so much. Yeah, I'll do a lot more live streams now too. Again, now that I'm doing this full time, I love doing live streams. I'm having a blast right now. You know, they're tiring as well, but I love them. Thank you, man. I'm so glad. I'm so glad you like the content. Yeah. So I mean, I'm thinking cross-site scripting all day here, and client-side template injection. That's strange. I don't see the serialized Java file though. So I mean, maybe somewhere in the cache. No. That's weird. I don't know. Seeing some interesting stuff, but okay. So I think we've got some, we got some good information here. Let's go ahead and jump out of this. And the purpose of this manual recon section here, yeah, I'm on track. Oh, Decrypt, no, I've been thinking about like a marathon stream, like doing a 24-hour stream at some point. Fix It 42, yeah. So I did. I quit my job. My last day was on November 21st, and then I flew to Taipei on November 22nd. And then I kind of came back here and then immediately started doing all this. So it's been nonstop. But yeah. So, and look, I left for many reasons. Obviously, don't want to get into that. But fundamentally, like I really had an option. Do I want to find another corporate blue team job, which is obviously the safer option. But look, I mean, I love doing this, and I've wanted to do it, for ever. I always wanted to do this more. So I just said, let me give it a shot. And if I get 3 to 6 months, I mean, it doesn't look like this is going to happen now, but initially I was just thinking, if I get 3 or 6 months, down the road, and people were just not interested in what I'm doing and everything, then I can potentially go get another corporate job or go do what I want. Go do other things, but no, I mean, again, the support has just been absolutely incredible, and I'm beyond grateful to that. So I'm feeling very confident that I'm going to be able to spend the rest of my career providing content for the community, and got some other really cool stuff in the works. I don't know how much I want to dig into right now, but one of my closest friends, who he's an old Rapid 7 buddy of mine. We used to live in the same apartment complex in Austin. He's working over at HackerOne right now, and him and I are discussing some very exciting things that we could potentially do there. I'm in talks with the head of marketing for another company. I won't mention it yet, but it's another SaaS company, cybersecurity company that I've known for a while. I was one of their first customers at Flowcast. I helped them do a case study and everything, and we're talking about some cool stuff. So, yeah. Hey, Forbidden, how's it going? I think I'm saying that right. Thank you very much. Yeah. Hey, yeah. Anyway, sorry, my mind's going at all over the place right now. It's ping-ponging, but yeah. So I got a lot of exciting stuff coming up. I've got. I'm just going to keep building on it, right? I always say this. If you ever worked with me, this is a phrase that I've used, for a while. But it's chopping down a redwood tree with a pocket knife, right? It's just every day I take one step forward and make it a little better. Today, obviously, is the live stream, and then I got a couple other things to do there. So yeah, I mean, I'm just going to keep moving forward, and hopefully things will work out. Again, if you want to support me, I've got right now the main way is through YouTube memberships. Or I have Patreon or Buy Me Coffee, like anything like that. I have 2 different levels. It's just $3 and $9. The $3, both of them get you access to all of the private members only videos that I'm doing. And fundamentally, oh, thank you so much for the follow. Fundamentally, I don't need a lot of money, I don't have any interest in being rich. I just want to be able to do this as a career. So it doesn't I don't need to grow this into some big thing necessarily. I definitely don't want to grow it into a big corporation. I want it to be a community where everybody is kind of doing their own thing, and you're empowered to go and build your own, thing that you're passionate about as well. But for me, if we can get this community up to the point where I've got, I mean, I don't want to say the number in my head, but it's not a crazy number. X number of members that are just donating the $3 a month, and then a collection that are doing the $9. That can get me to the point where I've got this baseline of income coming in where that'll take the stress off. And then the next step, and this is what I'm going to start doing soon, January 5th actually is when I'm going to start reaching out and stuff. The next step is going to be offering penetration testing services. Now, I've done this a lot in the past. I turned away 5 clients last year just because I didn't have the ability to do it. But once I can start doing that, the goal is that I will lead and oversee all of the penetration tests, but we're also going to be able to bring in people from the community, trusted people from the community, to do those penetration tests as well. And eventually, you know what? Actually, hold on. Let me pull something up real quick. I'm gonna give you all a little preview of a video that is gonna come up here in a little bit. Let me pull this up here. So this is a slide deck that I made, I think it was like 2 or 3 years ago. And so this is not a new thing. I've been thinking and planning this out and kind of taking steps towards this for a long time. But essentially, and there's way too much. I'm not going to go through all the slides here, but I don't even remember what all is in here. Yeah, you can see this is back in like 2020. No, something like that. It would have been later, but yeah, essentially, here we go. So yeah, essentially you start out with joining the community. And then while you're doing that, we have the free educational material that's out there so that you can start earning money while you're learning as a bug bounty hunter. Eventually, you get to the point where you want to take the next step and you want to start doing penetration testing, right? That's going to give you, more money that's coming in. It's a different thing, right? So I want to have a gate there where you can either become a researcher as part of my community, or you can go and start your own company. I'm going to provide support and educational stuff for that. But essentially you can kind of step up to that and you start selling penetration tests and you start doing that. It's do that in addition to bug bounties. And then eventually, if you want, you use all this to build up your knowledge, to start building up your resume, and then you can use that to get a job, to be able to get a career. So that's kind of the pipeline that I've always imagined. Again, I mean, it's kind of grown and everything since then, but that's what I want to build. That's so I'm kind of slowly taking steps to that. So the next step is going to be starting to do the penetration testing and, reaching out and actually starting to service that. And then I'll bring people in, obviously, Decrypt, I know we've been talking about kind of doing some there too. Decrypt has a ton of penetration testing experience and stuff. So yeah, as we grow the community, that's eventually where I want to take it. And I'm probably going to do a video very soon on that slide deck, just like walking through, or maybe do a new one of like what exactly I want to do. Okay, all right, got myself off track a little bit there, but I think that's okay. So the next one that I want to look at here is the mechanisms. We're going to start to identify some of the mechanisms. So we definitely know that we found a login, and let's come over. We can do a sign out real quick too, and actually, because I know that that's one. Where's the call to sign out? Log out right here. Okay, so I'm going to copy this URL. Come back over here. And we have a logout. Does that, and then I'll just do button clicked. No prompt for confirmation. So we'll go ahead and save that. We know where the logout is, and then the log in. We'll do our arson+1 right there. That was weird. Did y'all see that? It said it can't sign me in, and then it signed me in. Weird. This one wasn't the one that was complaining about the plus notation, so I don't think that had anything to do with it, but strange. Anyway, I want to grab the login. Post request. Strange error message. we'll kind of take a note right there. I think we did look at the password reset. Let's just come over here to the profiles. Username and password here. So password reset happens here. And then we will say requires username and current password. Right, and once again, that just tells us that if we do get a client-side injection, like a cross-site scripting, we're not going to be able to send something directly to that. We've got our registration and setup here as well, you know, and I don't need to go through all of these. In fact, we can kind of leave that one off. We saw where that one was for. No email verification was included. At least not for that piece there. If we see anything later, we can do that. But yeah, so the goal here is we're going to go through all of these and answer questions. And we're starting to build out our picture of what the application is, right? So you're going to keep jumping back and forth. The goal is as we keep building this out, right? You can see here we're going to start discovering the endpoints, and then eventually we'll discover parameters, turn those into attack vectors, and then we'll go through all the different attack classes that will all be built out within this URL piece here. But so yeah, so I've got all the different mechanisms in here, and again, it's a ton, right? You can go through the different like access control places there, data operations. So whatever you need, download and upload files. I tried to include a huge list of different stuff in here. We were talking about OAuth a lot before. Where'd it go? I saw OAuth. You know what? I need to do like a search feature for this. I think I'm going to add that in before I do this release. That's going to be helpful. Okay. And then the next piece we have on here is notable objects. So remember, an object within a web application, so object-oriented programming is essentially how we try to represent real-world things, real-world objects using, you know, code notation, basically. So, and the user is probably the easiest way to do that. Most applications are going to have a user object, and that represents you and your identity, right? And it's going to have the ID and everything that the application needs to know about you. So the reason we want to have this piece, we want to go through and identify the notable objects that we're going to use, is because when we start looking at IDORs and access controls, this is what we're going to access. This is what we're going to try and target. Right, so let's see if we can find, and it does become a little bit more difficult if, you know, they're not using JSON and everything as it seems it is, but I don't see anything. We might be able to find it in Burp. I'm also going to come back down here and just see if we have anything stored, just to kind of show an example, because I did my best. Yeah, we got like some different stuff down here, so I'll show you. Let's see the cookie. Is there anyone stored in cookies? I think, yeah, this is JSON. These are hex encoded JSON. These experiment pieces here, this piece, I don't even know what that is. I don't know. Let's go to this one just because it'll make it a lot easier to kind of figure out what it is. So essentially, a web application is made up of these objects. There's going to be thousands of these objects that are just floating around that are going to be used for all different types of things. So I have a bunch in here that you may run into. You know, so that's where, like, let's just say, you know, if an API response, like if there's some type of error response and it comes back and just says, you know, message, error did not work, you know, and then code, blah, 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 blah. All right, so what you're going to be able to do is you can store these within the framework here so that we can keep coming back and referencing them. And then a lot of the automated tools are going to be able to reference these as well. So this right here, now in the future, we're going to be able to scan and recognize when there was an error within the API error response, you know. But because you're going to need a lot more flexibility in this, I've also added the ability to just create whatever you want. So this one here, why am I clicking on that? This is an object that's stored in session storage and has this name here. So I'm going to go add a new. Create that. And then we can get that added as well. What happened? We cut it off. There we go. Format that better. Right? And so now we have the ability to store custom objects in here, very easily see them, you know, reference them and everything there. So Decrypt said we should do a video together using multi-account containers, burp, and autorize. Yeah, 100%. 100%. Let me know, man. Yeah, are you on Twitch too? Because I know on Twitch you can do like group streams. We can also just use the Discord channel and everything. But yeah, man, I'm all about it. Love that idea. Okay, so yeah, so we can come in and store the objects here. And then the last piece that I want to cover real quick on this part, and then I'll get to like why I wanted to walk through some of these, is we also have the ability to come in and document the security controls, right? And I have all types of different things in here that you can identify. HTTPS enforcement, yes, right? I don't think we have the ability to downgrade to HTTP. Yep, and it looks like a redirect. So it's a yes, HTTP to HTTPS redirect right there. So we'll get that on there. HSTS, I don't think it has HSTS. And you're looking for a strict transport security header in the back end here. I have not seen that anywhere. So yeah, I don't think that. HSTS, for anybody that doesn't know, it forces you to communicate over HTTPS. It is an escalated version of HTTPS there. Yeah, Decrypt, you said so we can store the access tokens and check later. Yeah, 100%. I know it's I love that idea, man. You let me know when and where. I'm all about it. So yeah, HSTS forces you to use HTTPS if the certificate, like we were looking at the certificate issues earlier, if there were any certificate issues, then it would just not allow you to access it. Where if it's just HTTPS, that's where you've probably seen this, where it says this page is unsafe. You know, are you sure you want to go forward? And then you can go down to advanced and say, yes, I want to keep going. HSTS would prevent that. So let's come down here too. We can get the content security. These are some of the ones that are good, you know, cores as well, but content security policy is going to be very important. So do they have a content security policy? I'm just realizing I don't think they do. Am I wrong about that? I don't think I've seen any responses in here that, I don't think I've seen any responses in here that have a content security policy. Shin BDR, you made it. It's 1:31 a.m. here. What are you doing? Thank you so much. Thank you for coming. Good grief. You're making me tired. Although, yeah, I'm getting tired just thinking about that. Yeah, I don't think they have a content security policy, which is wild. So, man, I'm really feeling good about client-side injections for this one. I'm really feeling good about client-side injections for this one. Because look, we got all this silly stuff in the session storage here. We've got client-side templating. We've got all this actual HTML. So if we can get anything to inject in there, we really don't have a content security policy. So what if I just do, we need like a separate cores endpoint that would actually work. But let me just try this. So this is going to be blocked from cores, but it's not blocked from a content security policy. Wild. Insert mind blown emoji. So yeah, I'm loving this for client-side injections. Does it have a WAF? I don't think there's a WAF in front of it. Have we seen anything that would make us think there's a WAF? Decrypt, you said you saw a content security policy. Where'd you see one? Do you remember? I don't know if I've seen one on any of these here. Let me know if you find one or if you remember where it was. Otherwise, that's just showing the redirect there. Hold on. We got cores here too. Send this real quick. That's just a GET request though. We would need a post request to test that there, to test cores. I don't think, I haven't seen anything with a WAF. Let's come over here. I want to find a good request that we can kind of send stuff to. All right, let's send this to the repeater, see if we can still get it. And now, just out of curiosity, let's see if it blocks anything like the most basic payloads here. See, I haven't seen a WAF. I don't think, I'm going to say for right now, I don't see one. Might not be a WAF. DDoS protection, I don't know. I don't need to hammer that. CORS configuration, we can come and test CORS configuration real quick. Just so anytime I start to lean towards a client-side injection, then I start to think about, is there CORS and CSRF working properly? So let's take a look at the two of those, and then we're going to take a step back. I'm going to talk about threat modeling, and then I'm probably going to start to wrap this up, because I think I had this slated for 2 hours and we're almost at 3, but it's been a lot of fun. I'm going to start doing a lot more of these. Okay, let's find a CORS. So we need to see, well, this is all, well, no, okay, access control allow origin is a star right there, so send repeater. What happens if we add an origin header on it? Okay, so doesn't need any credentials, doesn't really care. We're still getting the star there even when we add a thing. So that's not going to be one of the state changing things that we want to see. This all looks like a lot of the same stuff. Well, this is interesting too. I think this would maybe be the only one that would have a proper CORS, but I don't see, I'm still not seeing the, yeah. So what I would be looking for here if there was a proper CORS implementation is if this was changing, well, it should be kicking it back. So we have originevil.com. It should be looking for a specific origin. And then we would need access control, allow credentials as well, which we don't see. So it doesn't look like they're doing a CORS implementation. They're just kind of opening it up without the credentials there. Could be bad, or could be good, or could be bad. Again, this is still a bit of a different tech stack than what I'm looking at. We got where was the stack trace? I might have missed that. If you change the origin and the allow origin response doesn't show up, then CORS is working in your experience. Yeah. If it does show up with your origin or star, then it's not working. Yeah. So it is in the script request. I don't. Yeah. It doesn't seem like they're too worried about CORS in this one. I don't really know what that means. You know, we'd have to find, I think a better test would probably be, let's try coming in here to our profile. Just, I was already here. Let's change my name to, this would be one that you'd really need to see CORS on. Gosh, there's so much stuff that happens here. Okay, here's the request that does it. So this one, let's change it from John to Steve, I assume. No, okay, that's not what you want to see either. This means, and we know this, it's being loaded from a post request. That should never happen. What should happen is the post request should go in, and then the data should be changed, and then you should be redirected so that it's a GET request that comes back to that. Now, it's just a bad user experience, but again, that's another example of one of those pointers that I'm talking about. They have the email in there? Where are you looking at, man? Where are you looking at? This one in here? Because if so, this was part of the form. Yeah, these three right here. Yeah, let me know though if I'm not looking in the right place for you. Yeah, maybe. It'd be interesting to see how this is tied to. And yeah, this goes back to how do they validate the identity of the client? You know, what they should be doing. Let's assume this is the session. Well, maybe the J session. Let's assume this is the session. What they should be doing is validating the session, identifying which user owns that session, and then pulling it back out and saying, okay, that's the user. We'll go make any of these changes here. But if they are saying, here's the email, and then now let's tie it to that, then you definitely could have a broken access controls. Yeah, authorization as well. So what happens if we do an origin here? Yeah, it seems like it's totally fine. I think they have their cores wide open. So you, yeah, at least for this one here. Huh. Okay, what about CSRF? Is there any, this is another one that I would expect to be a CSRF. Do we see any type of a CSRF token? Let's get this minimized a little bit. I assume this is not going to work. Well, okay, hold on. Let's not get too excited here. Yeah, took us back to the login page. So I'm betting it's this J session right here. Can we get rid of everything else? Let's just try Jim, see if this works. Seems like it's loading all of that. Let's see if our name is now Jim. Yeah. So all we need is this one here. Let's try changing it back to Steve without, there's no way in the world this would work. No, I'm still Jim. Okay, so we have validated. So it's this J session ID is the one that's doing it. What happens if the gadget now becomes admin? I don't know what I would expect to see here. Oh, that does it. So the state change didn't happen because I changed this from visitor to admin. That's interesting. Oh, and this form token has got to be our CSRF, I would think. Is that embedded? Is that just, I haven't bet anything. This is just written in the DOM. It's just like an older CSRF implementation. Yeah, go away. There's your email regex validation. Are they all in different divs? Where's the larger? Here's the form. Okay. We got the first name, the input. This one I'm sure is the, oh, that's right. That's being put in there with my extension. Here's your last name. Is the CSRF token hidden in here? I bet it is, and I'm just not seeing it. Where is that value coming from? Let me do this. There it is. Okay. I knew that was going to be somewhere in there. So does this change? Let me refresh. Oops, don't do that. It doesn't change. So I think we have a static CSRF token. Is the CSRF token even being validated? Okay, so now my name is Nancy. Why not? And let's just get rid of the form token altogether. just redirecting us back. So it does seem like they have some type of hard-coded CSRF token. It can just be grabbed from the DOM anyway. So if you've got a client-side injection, you're good. But there's a lot of gaps here in the security controls. Try a private window. Yeah, I'll have to log back in again, but still, let's I was in number 1. Yeah, let's give that a shot. Nope, not there anymore. We got a new one. So does my old one work? I think everything should be fine there, right? Seems like it worked. Okay, so wait, where's the private one? Let me see this. Okay, so I'm now logged in twice. Oh yeah, that's a good idea, Decrypt. I'll do that in a second. I'm now logged in twice, and it doesn't look like there's an issue with either one of my sessions, right? Yeah, I'm still logged in here in the private, and I'm still logged in over here, but it's changed it. So a user can have multiple different sessions at once, and then I assume you refresh over here. Wait, it didn't change this here. Hold on, am I in the same one? What is going on? This is the same account. That is weird. This is the type of thing that when you hear me talking about like stuff that piques my interest and like this is where bugs start. What you're seeing right now, like obviously I can't show real bugs. In fact, we're getting to the point where I almost want to like pump the brakes here because we're starting to see enough strange behavior. But this is the start of a bug. When you start seeing stuff like this, the bugs, at least the way that I look for them, they come from complexity. And there's some type of race condition, multiple different session inconsistency going on here. So let me sign out here again. And then I'm going to sign back into this account. And I'm definitely using the same one. And now my name has changed. Yeah. All right. So I'm going to pump the brakes here. Again, if you're looking for your first bug, check this one out. Check this one out. Check out the, I'll come back to this in just a second. Check out these that we found. You know, we had multiple different ones. You go back into the beginning. Yeah, there's especially that one that I've just shown the screen of a couple times. That's like, gosh, man, I don't know if that's supposed to be public facing, just at a glance. I mean, it might be nothing. It might be completely benign. I'm not going to go find out while I'm on stream, but yeah, it looks strange. It's on there. So, all right, here's what I'm going to do. I need to hit the head one more time, and then I want to come back here. And we've gone through and answered, you know, some questions about this. We've found some mechanisms and how they work. We've tested out, you know, we found a couple notable objects that could be interesting. Not that I've really written them down here, but I've got them in my head. And then we've done some testing on some security controls. So I want to wrap up this stream by doing a very quick threat model with this, as I've been talking about, because again, I get this question all the time. Once I'm done with Recon and enumeration, how do I move to a manual testing strategy? That comes from threat modeling. That's what I do. And it's something that every blue team does all the time. And what I'm realizing is that I don't think there's a lot of people talking about it in the bug bounty community. And it really is. Like that's the part where you sit down and identify how an attacker can approach it. So anyway, I'll be back in just a minute or two. We'll sit down. I will walk through the STRIDE threat model methodology a little bit. We'll talk about what we found. We'll identify and kind of build up some attack paths that we could go in and test. And then that's it. I'll let y'all kind of go off and test. But I feel like there is, between the data in the framework and what we have found in this stream over the past 3 hours and 11 minutes, I think there's enough information here for anybody that's watching to find their first bug. So yeah, I'll see you soon. I'll be right back. Yeah, don't worry. Come on, Bubba. Come on, Bubba. All right, I'm back. Shake it out a little bit here. Oh, yeah, Nelson. Yeah, you talk about threat modeling. Oh yeah, just do it. Yeah, threat modeling is again. I'm surprised that nobody talks about it. But if you ever worked on a blue team, I mean, it's a core part of what we do. Great. Just want to make sure nobody's trying to get hold of me. Want to go lay down, Papa? Huh? Go lay down? Or you want to stand right there? Okay, you can stand right there. That's fine. Okay. All right. So like I said, I want to talk about threat modeling. And actually, let me kind of come over here to do this. Oh, I should. Well, do we have something that's more of like I want like a diagram. Here you go. This would be better. Can't just give me the picture. I just want to open the picture up. You're not going to let me make it bigger? There you go. That'll work. I think y'all can see that okay, right? Oh. Said, I came from a pure computer science and then like only worked on systems engineer my whole career, nothing security. So, oh yeah, that's good. Well, again, it's like, it seems like threat modeling isn't really discussed in bug bounty hunting or a lot in like offensive security as well, which is crazy to me because what you're trying to do is just identify what's possible from an attacker perspective. That's fundamentally what it is. I don't know why this is doing some weird AI stuff. I guess that's what that button does. I thought it would just, can I just see it full screen? You're killing me with all these new AI things and good grief. No. There it is. Okay. Apologies for the giant Starlink advertisements that are flooding our thing here. And also, you're welcome for not making my own site and doing that as well, because the thought had crossed my mind. But it's super annoying, and I don't want to be super annoying. So, okay. So again, a threat model. Okay, so I'll go ahead and put you in my shoes. So again, I'm a blue team application security engineer. We're an application security team, and our job is to make sure that as an application is developed, as new pieces of the application are being built, or if major changes are being made to the application, our job is to our job is to try to reduce the number of vulnerabilities to make it to production as much as possible. You're never going to be at zero. It's just not possible. It's never possible. But you're constantly fighting to get the percentage of vulnerabilities that are discovered before they make it to production to be as low, or discovered before to be as high as possible, right? You want to find as many as possible before they go to production. I'm making this more complicated than it needs to be. And then that's where bug bounty hunting comes in, is bug bounty hunting is that final net, because it's impossible to get 100% of the vulnerabilities no matter what you do, no matter how big your security team is. It's just not possible. There's too much complexity. There's too much stuff going on. So the bug bounty hunting is that net that catches anything else that comes out. So I'm on an application security team, and the developers have been building a major new piece of the application. It's a whole new feature. Let's say it allows you to send like email notifications based on activity in the application, and there's rendering within those emails, and there's like a whole messaging system. It's essentially its own email client that sits within this web application. What we are going to do, we're going to have a whole process to go through and try to make sure that we find as many vulnerabilities as possible during the development process, during the design process, during the development process, during the testing process, etc. Right? One of the first things that we'll do is called a threat model. So this is going to be within the design phase. You need to know what essentially is going to be built, what the application is, etc. But it's typically within the design phase. You're going to have a group meeting, and you're going to bring in the developers and the people who are building the infrastructure and the product managers that know the purpose and the why behind some of those features, all that type of stuff. And then you're going to bring in a group of security engineers that specifically specialize in offensive security and have the ability to put themselves into an attacker mindset. They know what's possible and what's not. And you're going to go through and conduct what's called a threat model. It's going to be a group exercise, a group activity, although obviously you can do it on your own as well. And that's what you do with bug bounty hunting. And you're going to talk through each piece of the application. You're going to essentially break the application down, break the application down into its core components or mechanisms. And it all depends on like how deep you go into it, but break it up into its core components, core mechanisms. And then you're going to walk through a structured process to ask yourself what's possible from an attacker perspective across this criteria. Now, STRIDE is the methodology that I'm most familiar with. There's a lot of other ones as well. So, you have the MITRE attack framework as well. This is much deeper. And typically what I would do is I would start with STRIDE as a high level, and then you can go into this. But the MITRE matrix essentially goes through like what is possible at every single individual step. This is a great resource if you don't have this. Goes into each one and talks about like what's actually possible, etc. So that one's a common one. There is probably not going to spell that correctly. I never do. What is it called again? There's like the privilege escalation card game or something. Am I wrong about this? Somebody correct me. Elevation of privilege game. Here we go. Another way to gamify it is this is still using the STRIDE method. You can see here in the things, we still have the same. So STRIDE stands for, maybe let's start with that. STRIDE stands for spoofing, tampering, repudiation, information disclosure, denial of service, and elevation of privileges. These are the 6 core impacts, the 6 core results of an attacker's exploitation that they could be looking to do. You know, are they spoofing an existing user? If so, they're attacking the authentication of the application. Are they tampering with some type of existing data or something like that that's in there? If so, they're attacking the integrity. Repudiation, obviously attacking non-repudiation, right? That just means, can you validate a claim that somebody did something? So with repudiation, I think this is a great one that a lot of people overlook when they're thinking about bug bounty hunting. If there are logs within an application that show what a user did, and you have the ability to delete or control what those logs say, that's something that a lot of people don't think about submitting as a bug. But that can have a huge, huge impact. You know, we had ones where, you know, an auditor was able to completely overwrite existing log components. So, and an auditor is like a lower level, you know, person. They would be an external person, right? So they're auditing the logs. Their job is to come in and audit those logs, and they have the ability to change the logs that they're auditing. That's terrifying. What if I'm the auditor and I come in and I'm working at your company and I don't like you? You know, we walked by in the hallway and you gave me the side eye or something, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna get this guy. And so I go in and I modify those logs to make it look like you're doing something you shouldn't be doing. And then I go as the auditor, drop the report down on my desk and say, hey, look at what this person is doing. And I've got the logs to back it up. So that, you know, again, this is why I really like threat modeling here. It's like it forces you to go down step by step and think about what an attacker can really do. And again, repudiation is something that I see that gets overlooked a lot in bug bounty hunting. And we had really good payouts in the Flowcast program because people were able to find that long time ago. But yeah, and then information disclosure, right? Fairly obvious. That's where you're getting like your IDORs and everything. You can leak data you shouldn't have access to. Denial of service in a lot of cases is not going to be within scope for a lot of bug bounty programs. Some of it is. There's also some cases where it is, right? Like, and you see here, talks about exhausting resources. That can be where you can start to have an impact. I will tell you that if I do find any denial of service that it says like it's not typically in scope, but I can cost the company a huge amount of money, then I'll typically reach out to the security team and just say, hey, I just want to let you know about this. You know, I can submit it as a report if you want, but you know, you'd be surprised. Sometimes they'll allow you to do that. And then elevation of privilege is simple, right? That broken access control. You're allowed to do something that you're not supposed to do. That goes back to the auditor again. You know, the auditor allows to modify it. They shouldn't be able to do that right there. So, I mean, that's essentially the process. You know, you're gonna, if we come back over here, you'll go through, you'll understand the application, you understand all the different pieces there, and then you're going to look at the individual. Typically, I'll go down into mechanisms and I'll do a threat model. So we've got our password reset, right? We already found where this is. Let's click to open this back up. By the way, you see, that's why I like the framework. Makes it easier to do that type of stuff. So let's threat model this reset password mechanism, right? Because that's what we have. We have a mechanism within the application to reset the password. And we can grab oh, no, this is not the right one. Oh, no, we're not going to have one. Okay, so we can assume that this would be very similar to the type of thing. We're going to have a form input, but yeah, we'll do our best with this. Typically, you would have more information. It can be harder when you're in on the black box perspective as a bug bounty hunter, but that's fine. Okay, so let me get this taken out here. Can I get this in a way? Okay, perfect. Yeah, so we are threat modeling this. So let's go through with spoofing first. And again, I'd love to have people kind of trying it out in the chat as well. If you want to throw some stuff on here. Shin BDR, you said, Arson, will this be on YouTube? I missed most of it. Yeah, absolutely. It'll definitely be on YouTube. And how you're feeling after doing live for a while? I feel good. I feel good. My throat's a little sore is the only thing. And that's probably from the caffeine. I've had too much caffeine today, but yeah, it'll be on YouTube at the latest tomorrow morning. I'm gonna actually as long as this has been, I can pretty much say it'll have to be tomorrow morning. I think just getting this turned into a video and getting it uploaded is gonna take quite a bit of time. But yeah, 100% it'll be on YouTube. It's supposed to be streaming on YouTube. It tells me it's streaming on YouTube. I'm gonna have to troubleshoot that and make sure it's fixed before the next live stream. But again, chopping down a redwood tree with a pocket knife, right? Okay. So we have the ability to change password. We're going to look at this from an attacker perspective. Again, I would love if anybody from the chat wants to kind of talk about it a little bit too, or throw out your ideas, but let's talk about spoofing. What are some of the ways that we can spoof this mechanism here, right? And probably the easiest way that typically comes up is if you steal a session token. If I have a session token in some way, I would obviously be able to spoof that. Now, we've got to start talking about this like an attacker. First of all, if we already have the session token, what would be the benefit of this? What would be the benefit of changing the username and the password? It would be getting you persistence, potentially getting full control over it where the actual user can't get back in. Now it's noisy, they're going to find it, but it would give you persistence. So that would give you a step forward. It would make sense to do that. Is it possible? Well, we look here, you need to know the username. You put in the new password, and then most importantly, you have to put in the current password. So if we knew the current password, we really wouldn't be able to do that anyway. So most likely this is going to make spoofing, even if we had a valid session, very, very difficult. Now, Decrypt put in there user IDs and cookies or request to simulate user actions without the session token or ID. Yeah, so like, if there is an insecure direct object reference, I think is kind of where you're going with that, right? Then potentially we could do that. Or if it's taking like using the username instead of using a session token, something like that, then yeah, it becomes much more possible. But fundamentally, we still have to get over the fact that unless we can find a way to link this, which is a much more, link it from our account to another account, which is much more difficult, I would say that spoofing this is not a great target for spoofing. So I would probably move on with spoofing a little bit. What do we think about tampering? So we already have existing data in here. We have our username, we have our current password and our new password. We're targeting our own application. Can we think of anything that we could potentially tamper that would have a negative impact on the company itself? Oh yeah, Decrypt, you're talking about logging. Yeah, doing user IDs. If you can, oh, that's going back to repudiation. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, if you so Decrypt said, yeah, user IDs and cookies or request to simulate user actions without the session ID or token. See that a lot in logging, so we can make it look like they did stuff and maybe get their account banned. Yeah, 100%. So that, yeah, if you can, and yeah, no, that is technically spoofing, isn't it? I like that. I didn't even think about that. That's a very cool idea. Obviously, it doesn't work with this mechanism, but yeah, if we can spoof the logs to make it seem like they're trying to do something they shouldn't, then that'd be a great one too. So for this one here, for tampering, again, we can change our username, we could change our password. We probably, oh, thank you so much for the subscription, Orbital Gun. I really appreciate that. We're gonna have a loud sound here in a second. I'm gonna turn this down a little bit. How could we tamper it? And where my mind is going to, the main path is a database injection. This is a mechanism in operation that is going and making changes in the database. Thank you so much. Thank you for the subscription. There's that sound there. So can we get a database injection as part of this that will modify other users' current passwords or something? That's where database injection is one of the main ones. Can we change the username using a I'm going to call it a pound. I guess people call it hashtags now. In the URL, maybe when the user clicks to update the account. Yeah, SQL map, exactly. That's yeah. By the way, like I know a lot of people ask me to do a video on SQL injection, and I'm happy to. You know, it's a great thing to know. But like the reality is for bug bounty hunting, SQL maps really good, and a lot of people just spray it everywhere. I don't remember the last time I saw a valid SQL injection that I got when I was doing my testing. Um, but yeah, I mean, SQL injection is definitely where my mind is going there. Decurb, you're talking about like a hash fragment in the URL. What kind of an impact? I'm not sure if I'm following the impact there or where it would kind of link back. But yeah, SQL injection for me is one of the main places. You're thinking of using the hash fragment in the URL. Allows, oh yeah, okay, I see what you're saying, and then possibly tamper with the DOM and use it to move over to a client side injection. Or yeah, if you could find the ability to change. I guess that's kind of splitting hairs, but if your username or something was loaded into a client side injection later, you could do there. But yeah, that's nice. I like it. Thanks. Awesome. Fun stuff happening in the chat there. Okay, so going down to repudiation, right? Is there a way that we could attack the repudiation? I mean, here there's not a lot of things that are jumping out to me. Again, it's like now there's probably something that's being logged on the back end to do it. So let's just say worst case scenario. Let's just say you can make it look like somebody else changed the password. What would be the impact of that? You know, you could you might be able to just burn some time for their AppSec team and everything if they're doing an investigation or an audit and they found that it looked like another user was modifying it. Not a ton of impact there. So repudiation is not jumping out at me for this one. Against anybody in the chat, you know, let me know if you disagree there. But yeah. Now information disclosure. What are some of the ways that information disclosure could result from this? Oh, Decurt first of all said, if you pay for stuff on the site, you can claim it was malicious by showing that somebody else accessed the account when they didn't. Yeah, potentially. Yeah, but again, like I think, you know, long term or like downstream, I think really the only impact of that is that they're gonna like have to go do an investigation. You know, it's not like you could do that and then, you know, I don't. Yeah, I mean, is there anything? I was thinking like, can we make the news? Can we make the news, or can I sell what I did to somebody else? I'm not sure if that would work there, but. So information disclosure, first of all, we'll go back to that SQL injection again. Same thing. We get a SQL injection through here that we can leak other users, other passwords, anything like that 100%. That'd be a good target for that. The other thing that I'm thinking is what about the response? We haven't sent this through, so we don't know what the response is, but are they leaking information in the response? Are they leaking information about what actual database server is there, how the operation is going? If we send unexpected data, you know, can we, or are they going to leak, you know, maybe some stack traces or anything? Now, some people again will debate about whether or not that's technically information disclosure because that may not, you know, we're not talking about customer data. We're talking about, you know, more of like data on what their tech stack and everything is. But, you know, you can still, I think for all intents and purposes, that would still be a version of, reading Deco saying, still be a version of information disclosure. Said, yeah, definitely a low chance, especially if they have to go through GCP logs. Yeah, and yeah, tying it back to compliance is another good one. Yeah, that's where you can get it. Like, if they have to have their logs for compliance and you can delete all their logs, I've been through a lot of SOC 2 audits. I've been through a lot of more strict audits. I started my career doing DISA audits for government contractors that were building weapon systems, at least when I started my civilian career, when I started the thing, when I left the military or was medically retired from the military. If you get into that audit and you find out that somebody has deleted all your logs, that's a bad day. That's a very, very bad day. So yeah, always like understanding compliances. That's why I talk about like HIPAA and everything in different videos. Understanding compliances and like how these attacks would really impact the company. And you know, I mean, most companies they need to have their SOC 2 audit in order to operate. You know, like you fail a SOC 2 audit, and your life for the next year is going to be tough. You know, you're basically walking that back and POAMs and all that stuff. Yeah, exactly. Do it right. Yeah, find out when they're being audited. Yeah, I mean, shoot. And some companies will tell you. Some companies will do a blog or they'll do news posts. We just passed our SOC 2 audit. Okay, well, SOC 2 audit is annual. So you just told me you passed it in August. I know when to look next August or next, right before September. I couldn't think of what month came before August. That's not good. I'm probably getting a little tired. But yeah. So compliance is a great way to show impact. So yeah, information disclosure. I don't know if anybody thinks of anything else, but again, the main thing for me here would be SQL injection again. Maybe too, if it says like that username doesn't exist, then you can exfil the username. Or if it said like incorrect password, you can kind of start to surmise what the password might be. But okay, so denial of service, again, we won't spend too much time. I think most people understand denial of service. Here, can we do like send 1 million requests? I wonder if that would stall it out. Anything with like deserialization, something that would get it like stuck in a loop, or they, yeah, I don't know. But I'm not seeing a ton of opportunities for DOS here. And then the last thing would be elevation of privileges. Well, the main one for me is if I can find some way to change the password of a higher privileged user, then that would be the way to do it. Now, what would need to happen, probably the current password here, this mechanism would need to not be validated, or you need to break it at some point there. But yeah. And by the way, there is a stride. There's a stride P as well. This is kind of the newer version of it, but which just includes privacy as one of them. I guess they're not going to automatically list that out there, but yeah, anyway, so a lot of people do now do a stride P as opposed to stride and include privacy as part of that, which again, you can do that. So Forbidden said, what was today's work in the finding arson? So the first thing that we did, because I'm starting to wrap up here anyway, the first thing that we did today is we went through our Cloud FM thing here and we found several different target URLs based on our metadata and our ROI report that would be worth our time to go in and test. The goal of today's stream is to help people watch and find their first bug. The next thing that we did is we went through and got, a few of those that we liked, and we did some testing and everything for it. And then finally, we came through to this specific application here, which is it allows for creating multiple different accounts. It has all types of different scope and all types of different information. And we went through and did a lot of manual recon. We answered several different questions about its identity and scope, tech stack, things like that. We found some mechanisms, found out how they work that we can target for our attacks. We found some notable objects that we can use to try to target with the different type of attacks that we're doing. This is the data we want to pull back. And then finally, we enumerated some of the security controls to determine what would actually be possible. And all that information we are using right now, where'd it go? We're using right now, oh wait, it's over here, to threat model against this specific password reset mechanism to attempt to find possible attack paths that we would use against this mechanism. And as I've said multiple times, threat modeling is, I think, the piece that a lot of people are missing, where they finish recon and they move into where they want to do manual testing. And that's like the number one question that I get. It's once I finish recon, how do I do manual testing? So that's why I'm doing it. Shin BDR says, was this injection focused? No, not at all. I mean, we definitely talked about some injections and everything, but no, this was more about recon. It was more about finding good targets, understanding where to invest your time, not invest your time. Again, the purpose of this stream is that at the end of this, the community will have a resource there with targets that exist right now. And again, as for anybody that wasn't here, the reason that I picked this wildcard domain is that it was just added a month or two ago, and there's almost 700 live servers. There's no way they've all been tested. There are bugs in this environment right now, 100%, no question. So that's the goal. The goal is to give you all the tools that you need, all the targets. We got the framework data that's available right now, so that hopefully people can start finding their first bugs. And I definitely want to hear about it if people do. But yeah, definitely, yeah, fix it. Watch it tomorrow. I will. I'll put a big message in there, kind of, wow, thank you, gosh, gifting subs and everything. Oh my gosh, thank you so much, Orbital Gun. You gifted all types of different subs and everything. That's incredible. Thank you, man. Wow. Well, yeah, so again, I'm happy to answer any questions. We can do another mechanism if you want to walk through the stride methodology one more time. But that's everything that that I wanted to land on, or that I wanted to talk about. Yeah, sorry, I'm looking at the chat too. All types of stuff are going on over there. Yeah, thank you so much. Gosh, I've never had this much engagement, I don't think, on my videos and everything here, man. Y'all are awesome, dude. I'm loving the chat right now. Thank you. So yeah, like I said, I'll open it up. If there's anything in particular that anybody wants to talk about, any questions that we got in the chat here, anything like that. Otherwise, it's been 3 hours and 41 minutes. I might go ahead and start winding it down and call it a day. But yeah, I don't feel as tired as I thought I would. Forbidden asks, I always underestimate sea surfs. Do you think there's a lot of them in the wild, or should I look for them more often? I don't typically submit a sea surf on its own. If I find one that's just completely like wide open, I can make, like from arson.com, I can make you send a request and it will actually do like a major change. I would submit it, but I just don't see that often, because the same site cookie flag is required, which it has been for some time. I use CSurf as what I call a chaining bug. So CSurf, cores, client-side injection sometime. The three of those together is some combination of those you can find account takeovers. So what I do is if I find an endpoint that does not validate the CSurf token, or a lot of times you've got like a cookie and a header, and as long as they have the same value, it doesn't matter what that value is, it'll pass it, something like that. Then that I'll kind of put that to the side and say, okay, now I want to find like a client-side injection, or if I can find a core. A lot of times, CSurf and cores are also very tightly implemented nowadays, right? Because most applications have multiple different subdomains, so you need a cores implementation, and there's some type of CSurf validation on top of that. So yeah, Decrypt said, if paired with allow credentials and cores, CSPs are, yeah, the content security policy is also going to have a big impact on whether or not you can exploit a CSurf and all that. So it depends. I talk about that a lot in my client-side injections part 2 video. So I would definitely recommend doing that. And then again, I mean, you know, if you have a membership, where I have my members only videos, and by the way, it's just $3, $2.99 a month to get you access to all of them. You can just do it for 1 month, watch them there. I'm going to be building out those videos over time. But the first video that I did was basically a 40-minute video where I sat down and said, okay, here's, get rid of all the other stuff. Here's step-by-step exactly what I do today to search for account takeovers using client-side injections and cores and everything in CSurf. So that'll show you kind of exactly how I do it. If it, yeah. Yeah, and Decrypt said too, don't forget to try CSurf token from the account A on account B. Sometimes it validates, but not against the user. So only if you have a valid one, that's all you need. Yeah, and then we saw the one here earlier where it was, we had 2 different sessions on the same account, and all types of weird stuff was going on. So yeah, again, any other questions that we have here? I'll give it a couple more minutes, and then yeah, I think it's time for me to call it a day. I was talking to my neighbor, who's also a good friend of mine, and he mentioned something about having a nice new bottle of whiskey. He wanted me to come over and try, and if you want me to be somewhere, it's a pretty good way to get it done. So we'll see that. How to hack? Please, sir, tell me. You go into your Linux system. By the way, this is Decrypt. This is a joke. You go into your Linux system and you type in rm -rf as the next word, and then //. And that'll hack everybody that is anywhere. So yeah. That's all you do. That's the secret command that hacks anybody. rm -rf space //. I'm just kidding, by the way. Don't do that. That will delete. Okay, but yeah. He said, be right back. I'm gonna try it. Okay, Decrypt. It will hack the Pentagon. It will. The Pentagon's actually easy to hack, man. They don't even know about that. They don't even know about that secret code. Isn't that crazy? You know? Yes. Yeah. Okay. This bit's probably gone on a little longer than I should have had it go on, but yeah. Will it hack my hexes instant? No, that one's rock solid. Yeah, your ex's Instagram, unfortunately, is rock solid. Not gonna be able to get into that one. You, dude. Um, yeah, I've had a Fiverr Pro account for a while, and I have gotten a little bit of work and everything through there. The number of people that reach out to me and try to social engineer me into hacking into somebody else's like Facebook account or Instagram account is ridiculous. I get probably 3 messages a week from somebody that's like, oh, I lost access to my Instagram and I need you to hack in to get it. I'm like, I've got a copy and paste thing that I can put in there that says like, that's not how hacking works. Like you're nobody's sitting on a secret way to get into Instagram or something. If they are, they're reporting it to Instagram and getting paid a crap load of money. I don't know. Anyway, it's funny how people do that. And it's also funny where people's priorities are, is like that's their main focus is getting into somebody else's social media for whatever reason. I don't touch it. I've got LinkedIn. I like LinkedIn because there's accountability. If you go and say a bunch of crazy stuff on LinkedIn or do a bunch of crazy stuff, for the most part, we, typically can have career implications and everything too. But I do have an old Instagram out there. There's still somewhere pictures of me when I was in the Army, like couple like more recent ones and everything. But yeah, Decrypt. I mean, Decrypt. If you want to hack my Instagram, I honestly don't really care. I don't ever even think I did any DMs. Oh, thank you so much for the subscription. Thank you. Hey, what's up, Hacker J? How's it going? I'm trying to think if DMs were even a thing when I had an Instagram. I don't. Are DMs new? Because again, that would have been. I mean, it would have had to been 2013. Has Instagram been around that long? Or maybe I had the pictures and I made it more. I don't know. Something, but bro, now on LinkedIn, you see some 16-year-old having OSCP, OSWE hacked ass. Go, yeah, well, because they're growing up with it. Like, look, man, I came from Dunbar, West Virginia. Let me just show you real quick while we're just sitting here and chatting for something. This is where I came from. The population is now 7,479. This is where my family's from. This is where I grew up. Oh yeah, yeah, of course I remember you, man. Good to see you. Yeah, how's it going? I grew up, I grew up playing in the woods and everything. We had a TV in our garage. It was the only TV we had, and it was like it had like the rabbit ears on it and everything. And we didn't have a TV in the house or anything. I mean, computers was insane. I didn't get the internet until middle school, and like now we had a little laptop that my dad got for work later, or no, that was before we got the internet and everything. And I remember we went to a bookstore and I bought this big thick book on QBasic. If anybody is old like me and remembers QBasic, and it was you learned QBasic and then you used it to build like a RPG game or something. And I went through the whole book and everything. So like we had the computer, but like that was the most of what I did. Nobody knew anything about it at that point. And now you got these kids that, from day one, some of them are using this stuff and they're just bored and figuring things out. So yeah, you'd be amazed at what some of these 16-year-olds can do. And like, I mean, that's going to be, the next generation that's coming up there. But then the question is going to be, because if you're working in, a security job, like, do you have all the other skills to do it? Like soft skills, being able to talk, being able to very clearly articulate the risk of a vulnerability, being able to kind of understand the political side. Like a lot of people go in and just think your job as an application security engineer is like, oh, found a bug, and you go and send it over there. No. You got to sell that bug because they've got 100 other things that are going on and they do not understand the risk and they don't want to deal with it right now. So you've got to be able to get in front of people and articulate the risk and sell it in a way that convinces them essentially to want to prioritize fixing that vulnerability. Some of them are easy, but a lot of times what you're dealing with aren't like, here's a remote code execution or a SQL injection. A lot of times it's implementing defense in depth. You have small configurations or you want to improve the security controls. All the things that I show when I'm going through my client-side injections and all these different hacking videos where I'm like testing out the compensating controls and using that to determine what's possible and what's not. I can tell you, if you want to go in and try and make a change on a content security policy on like a big complex application, you will see people's hair catch on fire because they're like, oh, we don't know what our system is so big and we don't know what the downstream effects of that are. So, we don't have everything, the telemetry set up so that we can do it. And so you end up not being able to go and do that. So I think what this generation is going to struggle with that my generation did not, is the soft skills side of it and the sales side of it and the politics side of it and understanding security within the larger context of the business needs and the business goals. And by the way, as a bug bounty hunter, if you can understand that as well and articulate it in your reports, you're going to see a dramatic change in how the companies respond to your reports. And I think that's a lot of the reason that I was, successful. Was like I've had reports where I submit them and there's, they may come back and say there's no vulnerability here, but we can kind of look at it in this different way. And we end up working together to go and find it. And, anyway, that's happened a couple times. So, Dia says, you had TV, I played with a stick. I played with a stick a lot more. I played with a stick. We had where I grew up, it was like we were on the side of a mountain, basically. West Virginia is a lot of mountains and everything. And there were just these gangs of neighborhood latchkey kids, including me, that would run around, and we'd get in these little kid gang fights and everything. It was silly, West Virginia is a fun place. Decrypt, yeah, Visual Basic. I remember Visual Basic for sure. All right, I want to make sure I didn't miss with any other questions here, but I think we're good. We're at 3:51. I'll give you all last thing. Any other last minute questions? Anything else we want to talk through? Otherwise, I'm probably going to go ahead and wrap it up. Yeah, security didn't really exist back then. Yeah, trying to think of what I should say and shouldn't say. I learned about SQL injection in high school, and it was beneficial. I'm saying too much today, man. Fix it, man. Thank you so much for coming. I'm so glad you enjoyed it, man. Thank you all for coming. When's the next stream? I'm not quite sure yet. So again, I'm slowly getting everything worked out. This will become more and more constant. So yeah, I'll let everybody know. I'll let you know on LinkedIn. Definitely let you know on Discord. I'll get it scheduled out. I've got to get the YouTube side fixed as well. I want to be able to multicast. I don't know why it's not working here right now, but yeah. So I'll definitely do one soon though. These streams are going to become more regular. There's going to be some different kinds. One of the things I want to do is start doing in the morning while I'm drinking my coffee, maybe just come up and do a quick 45-minute stream where we go through a couple bug bounty reports just live and talk through them together. Yeah, all that type of stuff. Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn if you want to connect me on LinkedIn. Our subs on YouTube. It's yeah. So on YouTube you can I've got a membership on there, and then I've also got a Patreon and everything as well. So again, lowest level is just $2.99 a month. Get you access to all my members only videos. There's only 3 right now, but I'm gonna keep building it out. I think that once I think I'll hit an inflection point. I think if I can get to 20 really good videos on there, then I want to kind of make it a no-brainer to do that $3, and then I think we can get that wide audience coming, or a lot more coming into where that'll just do that as kind of more consistent income, focus on the pen test, build the rest of everything out. So all right, cool. Last chance. Any other questions? I'll give you a minute or two. One last question. Go for it, Forbidden. Go for it. Here, you know what? I don't know why I'm doing this. Let's come over here. Then everybody can kind of see we're talking there. Orbital Gun, you're very welcome. Thank you for all the subs and comment and everything. Good grief. I've never seen that much activity on there. So I really, really appreciate it. This has been a lot of fun. I've missed this. I really just, unfortunately, haven't had the energy to do it for a while. My full-time job was very demanding for a while, but now I can do this a lot more, and I'm really, really glad. I'll wait for Forbidden's one last question there, if you got it, and then I'll head out. Mr. Planet, thank you for coming. Thank you. All right, Forbidden said, I've been thinking of emailing local companies to give them a free web pen test so I can learn more, make connections, baby. I think it never hurts to try. Penetration testing, that's all about trust. Hacker, thank you so much. Hacker Jeff. Penetration testing is all about trust. So if you're just some random person, and the thing is, saying that you'll do it for free, or I've had to learn this the hard way, the more money they spend, the better the customer feels. And there's almost this inverse thing where if you, so I was doing pen tests, 14-day pen tests for $2,000 flat fee for a little while. And it was kind of the same thing that you're talking about, where I was like, I wanted to get my foot in the door. I wanted to get more practice. I wanted to start out. And a lot of people were really off put by that. And they were asking like, well, wait, so why other people charge like 20 or 30,000? And I had a lot of really good talk tracks around it. In sales, you have things called talk tracks. And it's true, as I was saying, like, well, I'm I don't have any overhead. Like a lot of these companies, they have to charge so much because they have, yeah, they can take it in a negative way. A lot of these companies have to charge so much because they have so much overhead. I'm like, they have all these different departments and everything. It's not just penetration testers. So I'm saying like, for me, I'm able to do a penetration test for less just because it's me and, possibly one other person and everything. But then, yeah, they start asking, well, then how do you do this and this and what? Yeah, it can be taken in a negative way. I would say like, and again, I mean, you have to make sure you have the skills to do it. I don't know, what you're comfortable with. I would say the best pipeline is what I was talking about before, where start with bug bounty hunting, prove yourself with bug bounty hunting. So you can, you get an account, you can kind of make it public, get some things, disclosed, build some tools, get yourself out there. Like there needs to be some type of, or try to create some type of familiarity to where they at least kind of know your name. That's how I get a lot of my jobs now. But it's all about trust. You've got to build up and earn their trust. Yeah, again, like I would say bug bounties, and then once you have like established yourself as like a bug bounty hunter, then it can become easier to say like, hey, look, here's what I've done for companies, and a lot of times they'll ask you. Like if you're working on one company, like pick one that you want to work on, and you do find 3 or 4 good bugs, then maybe reach out to them and say, hey, here's where I am, and you got to be super honest, super candid, super honest. But just say like, yeah, here's where I am, here's where I want to go. Here's what I'd like to do it. Here's what I'm going to do. Here, like you've got to like initially as you reach out, you've got to explain to them before they even start to worry about it. Like, here's how I'm going to make sure I'm not going to disrupt your daily operations. Because companies get very nervous about a pen test. They're afraid you're going to take something down. You're going to break something. They just don't know. It's all unknown. So you've got to really put their mind at ease. Be like, here's what I'm going to do. I'm putting you in the driver's seat, this and that. So, it's really hard to start. And that's why, again, going back to like, I think this community can be a platform for that, because if the community starts to have a really good reputation, and then also hopefully I have a really good reputation and a proven, track record of being able to do this, then I can bring other people with me, or we can kind of leverage that reputation to be able to do it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'll do all my testing on, Saturday at 3 a.m. and then all these alerts are going to be coming off. And yeah. I mean, again, like, one of the best things you can do as an offensive security person is just talk to people who have done defensive work and like find out, what it's like and what they're afraid of and what they're not, kind of navigate it. So, all right, y'all, this is 3 hours and 57 minutes that I have been streaming. I don't think I've ever done that long. So I think I'm going to have to call it. This has been a lot of fun. Thank you all so much for coming. Again, I'm going to do several more of these, and this will be up on YouTube as soon as I can. So yeah, thank you. I will see you all again soon. Cheers. Hold on. You want to say bye? Tank's excited now. Now can I have a kiss? No, thank you. Thank you for the kisses. All right. Bye, y'all.